Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Betrayed and Became Chainsaw Man movie. Before we start, please go support Roberto Torres 769 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made, there will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Chapter 1 Who Am I? Narrates Issei. I don't know my name, I don't know where I was born, nor do I know the day of my birth. I don't remember the people who betrayed me, I only see shadows but nothing. The women I loved, what a farce, they slept with the idiot who framed me for crimes I never committed. They locked me up in Tartarus where I suffered day and night at the hands of the guards and those who visited me and tortured me both physically and mentally. I suffered for 2 years until they released me. I thought it would be because they already knew the truth, but no, they just told me that a damn traitor didn't deserve to be in their hellish prison. They left me in another city in Japan. How did I know? Well, those people speak my language. I walked, how could I if I was being tortured? Well, so much torture made me strong. Until some time later I forgot them. I don't know if my mind did it for my own good or not, but I no longer remember the faces of my parents, nor those of my friends, nor anyone else. I even forgot my first and last name, date of birth, adventures, I forgot everything. Although I still saw blurry people in my memories, I think they were the ones who betrayed me. I walked and lived on the streets, I learned how money worked, I had to beg to live day to day. People barely noticed me. Once I slept in the park and some teenagers beat me up because they said it was cool to beat up poor people. Luckily, I'm grateful to them, and why? Well, I went to the hospital and they gave me food, I saw television, which was the first time I'd ever seen it, and I was there for 2 weeks until the hospital discharged me. They left me to my fate again since I was cured. I couldn't live like that. I had to do something. I couldn't continue living on the streets begging for alms and eating a simple slice of bread. Until I arrived at the park where, a public park, was my home, or that's what I called a home. To make matters worse, it started to rain. Ha, who would have thought God hates me? Ha, I doubt he exists, since living on the streets made me realize something. Arrogant and deceitful people are on top while humble and honest people live in squalor. If God loved us, he would put kind-hearted people on high, while the arrogant would live in squalor like me. Until I hear a chainsaw. I turned around and saw a kind of sawdog. I saw it was injured and I had to help it. But the help wasn't going to be free. I made a contract with him. I would help him heal with my blood and in return, I let him use his power. Since he was a demon, he agreed and I made a deal with him. That's how my life changed. I joined the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, who gave me a job as a demon hunter and they could sell my organs on the black market. It lasted, but I proved to them that I would be useful. I ended up killing the alley demon with the help of the demon I made a contract with. They were surprised and accepted me as their pet, haha, better than nothing. They gave me a wooden house in a desert area and paid me 400,000 yen, which was about $40, for killing each demon. I gave the demon a name, I called him Pachita, I don't know if he liked it, but I think he did. Now he no longer ate bread, but now he ate bread with jam. Don't judge me, if you were in my shoes this would be a luxury. I killed demon by demon and received my payment for killing each demon. With hard work, I barely managed to buy a mini television, a hammock, a pillow, and a homemade water and electricity system. Pachita and I lived in our palace, going from living on the streets to a wooden house, haha, couldn't be luckier. But I realized that working with them barely provides me with enough to live comfortably. I got a job as a lumberjack and with Pachita's help we cut down trees and received a payment of 50,000 yen for each tree we cut down. We cut down around 10 trees a day. But this we could now eat the famous bean buns. And perhaps just some sheets to cover us from the cold of the night. But my life of luxury had to end. That day my boss called me and I had to go with him to an abandoned warehouse to kill a demon. In exchange I would receive 10 million yen. If this is what I was looking for, now that I've completed this job, I'll quit and only depend on lumberjack work. But when the boss arrived, he told me it was time to go to sleep since I was an old dog. I didn't understand, but someone stabbed me and Pachita. We both spat blood and the boss told me he had made a deal with a zombie demon, but that demon tricked them because by making a contract with him, he turned those who made a deal with him into zombies. We both escaped from the zombies that appeared. But the wound they inflicted on us was so severe that they caught us and dismembered us both. In the end they threw our remains in the trash. I narrate. The mangled bodies of Issei and Pachita were seen in a garbage container, but blood came out of Issei's mouth and Pachita, with her last strength, took some of the blood that fell on her. Pachita recovered and began to enter Issei. As this was happening, Issei's parts were reassembling themselves as if they were a puzzle. Issei woke up in a hallucination and was in the container along with Pachita. Issei. Pachita, that's great, but where are we? He said, looking around. Pachita. I liked how you talked to me about your dreams, said Pachita. That surprised Issei, and he continues. Pachita. Let's have a contract, you and I. I'll give you my heart and you'll show me your dreams in return. She said as the hallucination ended. Issei. Pachita, he said, emerging from the container, but Pachita was dead. Issei saw that he had Pachita's tail on his chest, then he saw the one responsible for taking Pachita from him. Filled with rage, he lunged at the zombie demon, who ordered the zombies to eat him. But Issei turned into a chainsaw. He had 2 saws in his hands and 1 on his head. Issei lunged at the demon, who tried to defend himself, but it was useless. The demon ended up cut in half, and Issei, still in his rage, killed every zombie in the cellar. Issei killed everyone and fell unconscious, since he could barely control the power Pachita had given him. But before falling unconscious, he saw a magic circle. She saw several people emerge from a magic circle. One in particular was a retard with enormous breasts. She lunged at Issei and placed him on her lap, not caring that he was covered in blood. She hugged him while asking for forgiveness over and over again. Issei didn't understand, but his body couldn't take it and he fell unconscious. This would be the beginning of a new Issei. Chapter 2. Did I perhaps know them? Issei woke up in a white room but saw that it wasn't his house or the hospital. He saw some clothes, became curious, and put them on. They were comfortable for his taste, and he left the room. He walked and got lost several times. He had to find a way out of this place. He searched and searched, but then he saw a lady in a blue maid outfit walking by and hid before she saw him. Issei hides in a room and hears the lady leaving the place. Issei left the room and walked for a while and found the exit. Issei. Finally, he said as he went to open the door, but someone grabbed his arm. Issei was about to attack, but saw a beautiful blonde girl with 2 drill-like pigtails and huge breasts. Issei and the girl stare at each other for a few seconds, and then Issei speaks up. Issei. Excuse me, but who? But before he could finish, the girl lunged at Issei and gave him a tight hug. Issei was confused, but he felt a wetness on his chest and heard her soft voice. I'm sorry, she said softly while crying on Issei's chest. Issei was confused. Who was she? Did he know her? He couldn't think of a better idea than to return the hug to reassure the girl. Issei. Calm down, let that pain out, he said as she lifted her face and, feeling his hug reciprocated, cried harder and told him she was sorry, but even harder. Then he saw a black woman with large breasts approaching. Ravel, have you found him yet? But he didn't finish because he saw Issei and Ravel hugging, while Ravel kept crying. Thinking, should I forgive her? The girl thought. Some time later. The 3 of them were seen in the living room of the mansion, and Ravel was sitting on Issei's lap. Ravel told him she felt safe like that, and he didn't forbid her from sitting on his lap. Searches. Well Issei, it's an honor for us to have you back, he said with a smile. Issei. Excuse me, but do I know them? He said, confused. Everyone was shocked to hear that. Did Issei suffer amnesia or something? Serafal. Issei-kun, you don't remember us? She said while touching her heart and beginning to cry. Issei. No, not really, I'm sorry, he said, lowering his head. Azazel thought that Issei, having suffered too much, had his brain erased or blocked those memories that tormented him for years. Issei. So Issei is my name, right? He said, looking at everyone. Michael. That's right, he said with a smile. Isaka. What did they call you before, darling? Said the leader of the Yokai. Issei. Well, before they just called me Pet, and that's all, Pet. He said seriously, but then his stomach started to rumble. Asia. Issei-san is hungry. She said worriedly. Issei. Excuse me, but do you have any bread with jam? He said, blushing. Ikeno. Nonsense. You'll eat something better. I'll be right back. She said, running to the kitchen. Ravel. I'll go with you, she said as she got off Issei's lap and went with her. Kaneko and Office took advantage of this and sat on Issei's lap. Issei. From what I can see from both of you, Ravel and I, you love my lap, he said with a smile. Kaneko. Yes, we feel safe sitting here, Issei-senpai, she said while resting her head on Issei's chest. Office. It's been a long time since we sat here, I hope you don't mind, she said, looking at Issei. Issei. Okay, he said with a smile. They both felt like crying, but they didn't. Later Ikeno and Ravel arrived, both with 2 plates. Ikeno had udon with meat and vegetables, a fried sausage, and a bean bun. And Ravel had a cheesecake. Ikeno. Here you go, darling, she said with a smile. Ravel. And here's your dessert, Issei-sama. She said as she handed him his dessert. Issei remained still for a few moments, and everything was silent until Issei spoke. Issei. Excuse me, I know it sounds embarrassing, but I don't know how to use chopsticks. He said, blushing with embarrassment. Rias. Let me help you, love. she said as she approached him, took the chopsticks, and picked up a piece of meat. Rias. My Issei, say ah, she said while passing the food to Issei. Issei obeys and opens it, and when he eats the bite, it tastes delicious. Issei. Wow, this is the first time I've eaten this, and it's delicious, he said with a smile. Baroka. Before you ate, Naya, she said, looking at Issei. Issei. Well, I ate bread with jam, plain bread, stale bread, bread with mo, junk food, and my favorite bean buns, and nothing else. He said, well the girls' hearts broke upon hearing that. Irina. Well, from now on you'll eat better things with us, we promise, she said with a smile and confidence. Issei. Well, thank you. He said, eating the bean bun. Some time later. Issei had finished eating and was satisfied. Issei. Thank you for the food. It's my first time eating udon sausage, and that dessert whoever made it was delicious. He said with a smile. Bravo. Thank you, Issei-sama, she said with her head down and blushing. Issei. And tell me, do I know you? He said, looking at everyone. Searches. Well, yes, you've known us for a while. You see, there are Rias, Akeno, Asia, Zenobia, Irina, Ravel, Ross, Kaneko, Kuroka, Li Fei, Gabriel, Penemu, Aphrodite, Athena, Artemis, Mio, Karabit, Murayama, Cadis, Ika, Tiamat, Yasaka, Office, Nyx, Velez, Serafal, Sona, Tsubaki, Sekiryuutei, Griselda, and Kus, your fiancés. He said with a smile. Issei, like the others mentioned, is surprised to hear that. Issei. How come I have so many fiancés? He said, surprised. Searches. Well, the old charmer Hyoudou, he said with some laughter. The other men laughed when they heard that. Issei. And who is the little girl behind Yasaka? He said, looking at a girl who was looking at Issei. Michael. She's your daughter, he said with a smile. Issei was surprised again, but he saw the little girl trembling with fear. A feeling came over him. He felt his heart beat faster, especially when he saw the girl. Issei kneels down a little and says. Issei. Come on, don't be afraid, he thought carefully about his words, come with dad, he said with a smile. When the girl saw Issei raise his arms, she ran towards him and gave him a tight hug. Kunu. Daddy, I missed you. She said crying on Issei's shoulder. Issei simply responds while giving him a few light pats on the back. Issei didn't know whether to say it or not, but he said it. Issei. Don't worry, daughter. Now that I'm here, I'm going to protect you from anything that might hurt you. He said with a smile. Kunu felt happy to hear that and hugged Issei tighter. Isaka felt like crying when she saw that and rushed towards Issei and hugged him. Issei. And tell me what else happened to me, he said while holding Kunu in his arms and hugging Isaka around the waist, but saw how she rested her head on his shoulder. Searches. Well, you see, some time ago we were attacked by a faction called the Chaos Brigade. One day you were out for a walk with your women, but they attacked. To protect your women, you surrendered. That day, they all cried a lot, even Sona and Penemu, who are the most serious. He said seriously. Searches. That's how they tortured you so much, both physically and mentally. We searched everywhere for you, but when we arrived at the place where you were tortured, there was no one there. He said, lowering his head. Searches. We searched everywhere until we found you in that warehouse. It's an honor to have you back. He said with a smile. Issei. Thinking, what a lame lie. One thing I learned from living on the streets is that I can tell when people are lying. But if I have food, a bathroom, a bed, and other things here, I don't care about their lies. He thought with a smile. Issei. Wow, that was unexpected, but tell me something, you guys, he said, looking at the girls. All. Yes, they said nervously upon seeing Issei's serious face. Issei. They still love me, he said, looking at them all. Rias approached him and kissed him, which Issei liked and reciprocated. Rias, as she separates from him, says. Rias. That answers your question. She said with a smile. Issei. Yes, he said with a smile. Searches. Well, what happened to you? He said, looking at Issei. Issei told her everything, including details of how he lived day by day. When they finish, the girls hug Issei and promise him that he will never suffer from cold, hunger, or other things. Some time later. Issei was lying in his room, but he had his entire harem with him. Issei. Well girls, I don't mind you sleeping with me, but why are you naked? He said, seeing how all of them, without exception, were lying naked. Rias. Well, that way we always sleep with you, she said with a smile. Zenobia. And it's time to make babies, Issei, she said while sitting on his lap. Issei. What? He said blushing. Thus begins an argument about who would give their virginity to Issei first. Elsewhere. Searches, Azazel, Michael, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Zeus, Anubis, and Great Red were seen looking at a tomb where there were some glasses. Searches places some flowers on the grave. Searches. Roberto, I know we've been expelled from your territory. If your wives see us, they'll surely kill us, even your children. But I want you to know that we found Issei. It wasn't easy, but we found him. This time we're going to do things right. We're not going to waste this opportunity you gave us. Your sacrifice won't be in vain. He said with a smile, pulling out a tequila. Thus Sirzechs serves everyone and leaves a glass of tequila on Roberto's grave. In one part there was nothing, it was literally an empty world. Several white fragments were visible, and these slowly came back together, but a voice was heard. Issei, I hope you're still alive after those traitors made you suffer, said the voice as the white fragments slowly came together. Chapter 3 New Day and Boys' Day. Issei woke up in his new home, but he was surrounded by many girls. Issei. But what? He said, seeing Ria's breasts in his face and Akeno's. Office lay on his chest as he slept. Issei. I don't know what's happening, but my hand is going to slip. He said as he brought his hand closer to Ria's chest. Issei touched Ria's breasts while she moaned with pleasure. Issei. Thinking, they're very soft, I hope he doesn't wake up. He thought with a perverted face. But he didn't realize that Rias had woken up and was watching what Issei was doing. Issei. Well, that was enough. He said as he opened his eyes and saw Rias awake. Issei and Rias remained silent and Issei lowered Office to his knees while apologizing. Issei. I'm sorry, he said on his knees, expecting a very hard slap. Rias. If it's you, you can touch them all you want. She said as she approached Issei and hugged him. Rias leans close to his ear and says. Rias. And you can also suck them, and if you want, I can also give you a Russian, she said while whispering in his ear. Issei blushes so much that steam comes out of his ears and he grabs Ria's breasts. Rias. Yes, Issei, caress them more, she said with pleasure as she felt Issei's caresses. Issei was going to suck them, but Akeno woke up and saw everything, so she approached them both and took Issei's hand. Akeno. Mine are better than Ria's, she said while placing Issei's hand on her chest. Issei felt Akeno's chest and caressed Akeno's and Ria's chests. Issei. Wow, both are very soft, he said while caressing both breasts. Isaka. Ha, they're young, now you'll know what a MILF's breasts are like, she said as she lunged towards Issei and buried Issei's face in her huge breasts. Issei. Thinking, oh my god, she's right, they're even softer than Akeno and Ria's combined. He said while feeling Isaka's soft breasts on his face. The others also wake up and an argument begins about who had the best breasts. Finally, they decide to go out to the living room for breakfast. They all argued about who would make breakfast and in the end Asia won. Excited, she went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for her beloved. Meanwhile, Issei made toast with all the jams he could find. Issei. Well, here's strawberry jam, grape jam, pineapple jam, orange jam, sweetened condensed milk, chocolate syrup, what else, haha, a little cinnamon won't hurt anyone, and ta-da. We've made the ultimate toast. He said while taking a bite. Issei. Delicious, he said while eating his bread. The others just watched as Issei made his strange bread, since he put everything in it. In the end, they were all sitting down eating what Asia had made. He made Japanese rice, a meat stew, and some sushi. Issei. Wow, this is delicious, Asia, he said with a smile. Asia. Thank you, Issei-san, she said with a smile and blushing. Issei. You'll be a wonderful wife, he said while eating more. Asia just blushes more and steam comes out of her ears. Meanwhile, the others were jealous because they wanted to hear that from them. Some time later. Issei. So they want me to meet these guys Bali, Kiba, Saji, Gaspar, Seryong, Cao, Uriel, Mitsuda, and Motohama. He said while talking to Rias. Rias. That's right, she said with a smile. Issei. Okay, it's always good to go out, he said with a smile. Leo. Take care, buddy. If you have any problems, just call us and I'll be there. He said while giving him a kiss. Issei. Okay, he said, leaving. He walked towards the park but didn't realize that Serafal had cast a spell so everyone could see what Issei was about to do. Issei arrived at the park and waited for those people. 10 minutes passed and everyone mentioned arrived. Issei. So you're the ones I'm going to meet. He said seriously while looking at the group. Ali. That's right, rival, he said with a small smile. Thus, everyone introduced themselves to Issei, but they all felt guilty since they had all, without exception, betrayed Issei. So everyone went to have fun. They went to the arcade, to the park, to a gentleman's club where Issei's girls were almost going to go after Issei and punish him. But they didn't and instead went to a burger place. Issei. Ha, this is the first time I've had fun with people, he said with a smile. Gaspar. We're glad, Issei-sensei, he said while eating. Subject. Hey, I ordered a hamburger 20 minutes ago, said an annoyed fat guy whose butt crack was visible. Waitress. I'm sorry, I'll bring it right away. She said as she left. Subject. You're not building rockets, move it, he said while waiting. Gibba. Rude, he said angrily. Ollie. Hey, I bet you 1,000 yen I can shove a cookie in his ass, he said while taking one of his cookies. Issei. I'll do it. Me and the Yakuza used to break windows of abandoned buildings. He said while pointing. How cow. And who was his pet? A broken condom, he said mockingly. Issei. Shut up, he said as he threw it and it hit the subject in the groin. Everyone. Ooh, they said excitedly. Subject. Hey, who was that? He said as he turned around and it was a blind person. Gibba. Oh no, he said worriedly. Subject. Tell me who saw him kill him, he said while holding his stick. Issei. Excuse me, sir, my 5-year-old son threw the cookie and it hit you in the groin, he said while trying not to laugh. Gabriel. Yes sir, excuse me, I gave you my cookie on your bottom, he said, using a child's voice. Subject. Well, considering the situation, I think it's okay. He said as he returned to his place. Everyone starts laughing quietly so as not to attract the subject's attention again. As Issei's girls watched, they couldn't help but laugh. So they went to Issei's house to drop him off at his door. Gibba. Well, that was fun. He said with a smile. Ollie. That's right, well we'll leave you here, rival. See you later. He said as everyone left. So everyone says goodbye to Issei, and as he almost reaches him, he gets a nosebleed because he saw his entire harem wearing aprons but no other clothes. Issei's harem. Welcome home, master, they said with a smile. Issei. Well, what is this? He said with a perverted smile. Rias. Well, the others and I decided to do this for you, she said with a smile. Issei. Wow, I'm surprised. He said, blushing. Kuroka. You can even take me while I'm cutting the vegetables and give it to me hard, Naya, she said flirtatiously, causing Issei to finally get a nosebleed and quickly go to the bathroom to clean himself up. Thus, they all had a plan to seduce Issei so that he could no longer resist and would mark them as his own. In the underworld. All the mass except Yusaka and Serapho were seen at a meeting. Anubis. Well, can you explain why the meeting? He said seriously. Searches. I didn't do it, she did, but he doesn't finish because a magic circle appears. I made it, said the person very seriously. It was none other than Israel, Roberto's right-hand man, or at least that's what he was known as. Now he was known as the leader of the Aztec faction. Israel. Hello traitors, he said seriously and coldly. Everyone lowers their heads, and Israel continues. Israel. The reason I held this meeting was because of you, my friend and the true leader of the Aztec faction is dead. He said while slamming his fist on the table. Azazel. Yes, we know, you even said so before, and we're sorry you banished us from Aztec territory and broke the alliance, and we pay for that every day, he said while lowering his head. Israel. Yes, it's true, but they know what they've done. He said very seriously. They all shake their heads in denial. Israel. They have broken the seal that the true demons had, he said seriously. That sparked interest in everyone. Searches. What do you mean? He said seriously and with interest. Israel sighs and continues. Israel. Do you know what abominations God has made? He said seriously. They all shake their heads in denial. Israel. Well, you see, the real demons were created by the fury of God and the fear of humans, he said seriously. Israel. There are weak demons like the tomato demon, the fat demon, the toy demon, etc. He said seriously. Israel. But there are demons like the demon of weapons, the demon of ghosts, the demon of control, and other demons that are very powerful, he said seriously. Searches. And what does this have to do with Roberto's death, and why do you blame us for the seal of those demons being broken? He said seriously. Israel. You'll see, when God realized what he had done, he sought out Irachi, better known as Roberto. He and Irachi made a deal. Roberto would capture every demon and seal them away in a safe place. He said seriously. Israel. He did it and listened to every demon, even defeating those powerful demons I mentioned. He sealed them all away. There were no more demons on Earth to worry about. He said seriously. Zeus. And why was the seal broken? He said seriously. Israel. That's the problem, when their pillar betrayed them and defeated them all, even Roberto, who sacrificed himself to defeat him, but the price was his life, he said seriously. Israel. When he died, that caused the seal to break and release the demons, including the demon of weapons and the demon of darkness and eternity, very powerful demons that are a danger, he said seriously. That made an impression on everyone, but Israel was powerful and could defeat all those demons, but there were more revelations. Israel. Look, I know you'll say, taking down all those demons is easy. Well, no, because once again their pillar used the Holy Grail to revive Rizivum, and we discovered that he has as allies the most powerful demons like the Demon of Weapons, Darkness, Eternity, Tartarus, Light, Invisibility, and many others, and he plans to attack everything. He said seriously. That made an impression on everyone, and this continues. Israel. And even if he didn't want to, Roberto would have chosen what was best for humanity, so factions, we must unite to defeat Rizivum and kill those demons, he said seriously. Elsewhere in the same nowhere. You could see those white fragments coming together again, but they formed a circle as more fragments arrived and joined the circle. It'll be a long time, but if I want my body back I need to wait, Issei please wait, he said as the fragments reunite. Chapter 4 Alliance. The factions were surprised. There was a new threat worse than the Chaos Brigade. They had no choice. They had to help the Aztec faction, or else they would dominate everything. Israel. And before you say something stupid, I know Issei is with you. One of my fly robots saw everything and his new power. I was going to go after him, but you beat me to it, so Issei will help me with that too. He said seriously. Searches. We understand, he said seriously. Israel. Well, prepare your warriors, for a new war is approaching. He said, making a magic circle and disappearing from the place. Scene change. Issei and Kuoh were seen at a pizzeria. Issei. And that way you can heal yourself with tree leaves, he said while eating a slice of pizza. Kuoh. Great, Dad, tomorrow's the day to take your parents to school, and I was wondering if you and Oka-san could, before she could finish, Issei says. Issei. Of course, tomorrow without fail we'll go, you, me and Yasaka, he said with a smile. Kuoh hugs Issei and tells him that she loves him, which Issei also says. When they finished, they went home, but a demon appeared. Issei. A demon. Kuoh helps people in danger. I'll take care of him. He said seriously. Kuoh. Yes, Dad, she said while helping people leave the place. Issei pulls the rope from his chest, his saws appear, and he launches himself at the demon. The demon extended several jellyfish-like tentacles and attempted to capture Issei. Issei. I think it's the jellyfish demon, he said as a tentacle grabbed him and electrocuted him. Issei manages to break free from the grip and launches himself to attack his weak point, which was his head. Issei cut off the demon's tentacles until none remained. Issei approaches the demon who tries to escape, but Issei lunges at him and cuts his head in two. Issei returns to normal after finishing and looks for Kuoh. Issei found her healing a person who sprained their ankle. Issei. Good job, daughter. Let's go home. He said with a smile. Kuoh. Of course, Dad. She said as she took Issei's hand and they both returned home. When Issei arrived home, his harem saw him covered in blood and he explained everything while they all checked to see if he was alright. Issei. I'm fine, calm down. I just got an electric shock, but it's nothing. He said, blushing as everyone looked at his body for any injuries. Asia. No, Issei-san, I'll heal him. She said as she summoned her rings and began to heal Issei. Issei remembered something and recalled how on one of his demon-killing missions he was injured by one and nobody cared about him, they even told him it was nothing. Issei. Thinking, is this what it feels like to have someone care about you? He thought while touching his chest. In Mexico. Israel was seen in a large office where many Aztecs work on reports of demons killed and or captured. AZTCA1. Tree demon, killed, he said while crossing out the demon's name. AZTCA2. Demon of the murdered suite, he said while crossing out the demon's name. AZTCA3. Jellyfish demon killed, he said while crossing out the demon's name. Israel. Well, we've already killed about 30,000 demons in these years. I hope Issei gets along well with his companions. He said seriously. Back with Issei. Issei was seen receiving a massage from Akeno. Issei. That feels so good, thanks Akeno, he said while feeling his bones crack. Akeno. It's my job, I'm your fiancé after all, she said with a smile. Issei and Akeno were alone until she turned Issei around and sat on his lap. Issei. Akeno, what are you doing? He said blushing. Akeno. I'm tired of waiting, Issei. I'll be the first, no matter what it takes. She said while removing her top, revealing her breasts. Issei blushes when he sees Akeno's breasts and she takes Issei's hands and places them on her breasts. Akeno. Come on Issei, give in to the pleasure and make me scream like a bitch in heat, she said as Issei, unable to resist any longer, began to lick and suck Akeno's breasts. Akeno moaned with pleasure as she felt Issei lick and suck her breasts. Akeno doesn't stay behind and begins to unbutton her pants. Akeno takes off his pants and boxers and sees Issei's erect member. Without thinking, Akeno begins to gently suck Issei's member. Issei moaned with pleasure as he watched Akeno lick his member faster. Unable to bear it any longer, Issei grabs Akeno by the head and begins forcing her to lick his member faster. Akeno's face was filled with pleasure as she received this treatment and she let Issei violate her throat as he pleased. Issei forced her to go up and down until he couldn't take it anymore and came in her mouth. Akeno's eyes widened, but she saw that Issei wouldn't let go of her until she had drunk every drop of his semen. Akeno painstakingly takes every last drop of semen and separates herself from Issei. Akeno. Well, you're very energetic, Issei, she said with a seductive expression. Akeno and Issei were about to give up their virginity when they heard a loud knocking on the door. They both got dressed in time because they saw the door lock being ripped off with a red liquid. Then they hear the door being opened abruptly and see a blonde woman with horns. Issei Hyoudou lives here, said the girl. Power, how many times do we have to tell you to wait for the door to be opened? Said a blue-haired boy. Power. Whatever, he said disinterestedly. Issei saw a blue-haired boy, a blonde girl, a dangerous girl with a ponytail, and a brunette girl. What will happen to Issei now that he's getting visitors? Chapter 5 Sacrifice. All of Issei's mass and fiancés were seen in the underworld having a meeting. Sirzechs told him what Israel had told them about the demons and that Rizavum was alive. That surprises everyone, and this continues. Sirzechs. Listen, it was our fault this happened, so we have to fix this mistake, he said seriously. Serafal. So, when Roberto died, he released all those demons. She said seriously. Azazel. Yes, but we're going to fix this, and once we've finished eliminating those demons, we have to resurrect Roberto, he said seriously. Zeus. But that's impossible, don't you remember that day? He said seriously. Flashback. Day of Truth. The mass were seen in a church as they watched Issei's ex-fiancés marry Ken, the high-class demon who framed Issei for crimes he never committed. Michael was saying the prayer to marry Ken to the girls. And the other mass were watching the wedding with a smile, but there was someone who wasn't happy about it, and that was Roberto, leader of the Aztecs, who was accompanied by his partners and children. Michael. Girls, do you accept Ken as your husband until death do you part? He said with a smile. All. We accept, they said happily. Michael. And you, Ken, do you accept these girls until death do you part? He said with a smile. Ken gave a very arrogant smile and looked at them. Ken. He didn't accept, he said arrogantly. That broke the girls' hearts, but no one noticed that a yellow glow came from the girls' eyes, and when they heard that, they began to cry. They didn't say why not or why they no longer felt anything for him, they just cried a lot when remembering Issei and weren't strong like he was. Sirzechs and Succubus lunged at Ken, but he possessed the power of Mio and the other girls, as he had the ability to copy his opponent's abilities simply by touching them. Ken was giving them both a good beating, and then Michael joined in, but Ken caught him with a sand tornado, which was one of Karabit's abilities. The other guests rushed towards Ken to finish him off, but he easily dispatched them. Ken. Some factions were easy to deceive. I never loved those bitches, I only used them to frame Issei and steal the Holy Grail to revive Rizavum. He said arrogantly. This shocked everyone, even Roberto, who, very angry, transformed into his god mode and lunged at Ken. Ken and Roberto combined very similar blows. But unfortunately for Roberto Ken, he had a great advantage as he surpassed him in power, strength, magic reserve, speed, and other things. Ken punched Roberto in the groin, causing him to scream in pain and alarming his wives. Roberto didn't back down and headbutted Ken hard, causing his forehead to bleed. Roberto and Ken exchanged blows again, but Ken had in his fists the power of destruction combined with Phoenix fire. Roberto. Tell me something, you bastard, you controlled them, he said while his hands were covered in purple fire. Ken. You're talking about those bitches of Issei's, right? I knew they would never cheat on Issei because I realized how much they love him. Even if I approached them and tried to convince them with sweet words, it wouldn't work, so I decided to use mind control. It was difficult to control Apis, Aphrodite, Athena, Artemis, and Karabit since they are goddesses. He said while dodging a kick from Roberto. Ken. But thanks to the spells your late brother left behind, it was easy to control them. Ha, you should have seen them cry when they were controlled. Ha 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 ha, he said while laughing. Roberto. You damn son of a bitch, he said while punching him in the stomach, but Ken kneed him in the chin. 2 hours later. Roberto looked badly hurt and had serious injuries. His wives were unconscious when they tried to help Roberto. Ken was as if nothing had happened, since with Asia's healing, Office's infinite energy, and Ravel's regeneration, he was basically an unbeatable being. Roberto. Damn it, if I don't defeat him, he'll dominate everything along with that old lesbian Rizavum, he said seriously while touching his broken left arm. Roberto. Sirzechs, do me a favor, he said while looking at Sirzechs who was standing up. Sirzechs. What is it? He said, standing with difficulty. Roberto. Find Issei and tell him to forgive me for not protecting him, and also tell my children to be strong, tell them that their father never took a step back, also tell my wives that I love them, and Issei's girls you are forgiven by me, since you were not to blame for anything, you were just victims like Issei, he said with a smile. Sirzechs, Azazel, Anubis, and Zeus carry the wounded and unconscious, and once ready, they take them all away in a magic circle. Roberto. Well, there's nobody here anymore, heh, I'm glad because now I can use this, he said while creating a symbol on his back and feet. Ken. What is this? He said while looking at the symbols. Roberto. The only way to defeat you is to turn you to dust, so you can't heal with the Phoenix's powers, he said as a dome surrounded Roberto. Ken watched his hands turn to ash and ran towards Roberto to hit him, but Roberto was protected by his dome. Roberto. Goodbye Kurumi, Toga, Miyuki, Aphrodite, Brunhild, Lukoa, goodbye Ardor, Kana, Mayu and Anya, and also to you Issei Hyoudou the strongest Sekiryuutei, he said with a smile. Roberto let out a scream as a great amount of energy appeared from his body. Ken. Damn it. He said, disappearing from this world. That day a great leader disappeared from this world, where he cared for his people and his family. His name was Roberto, leader of the Aztecs and the most powerful being of all. In the sky, a dome of energy could be seen growing larger, where the angels had to evacuate. The quarter of the sky was destroyed, but it was too risky to kill Ken, who was a danger to everyone. Hours later, Roberto's team and his wives arrived to look for Roberto. Juan. There are no traces, he said while searching. Their wives were desperately searching for Roberto to help him. They finally reached the site of the explosion and found only ashes and Roberto's glasses. Kurumi summons a rifle and fires to find out what happened, and when she finishes she kneels down and begins to cry. The others demand answers, and Kurumi says she died. The others do the same, and she starts to cry when she finds out. His friends just lower their heads as tears stream from his eyes. The next day. That day the news of Roberto's death was reported across all factions. The Aztecs wept upon hearing that. Their leader had died, especially the children, who cried upon hearing the news. The true gods Hercules, Ares, Hermes, Apollo, Hades and Zarafuku were deeply saddened to hear that. Shiva and Zeus celebrated upon hearing that, but were silenced by a gunshot to the testicles from Kurumi and a kick to the groin from Brunhild. 2 days later, Roberto's funeral was held, attended by many people, especially his wives and children, who wept upon seeing the only thing that remained of Roberto. His glasses. The factions were the same, but they were driven out by the Aztecs who threw rocks and glass bottles at them and shouted murderers and traitors at them. The only ones who weren't kicked out were Issei's former harem members, since Kurumi told them the truth about what happened. And so they said goodbye to Roberto and told him at his grave that they would be strong and would not let themselves be controlled again. End of flashback. Rias. I remember that day, when that damn Ken freed us from his mind control, she said seriously. Azazel. Yes, day and night we pay for betraying Issei, he said, lowering his head. Sirzechs. I say it day and night, but I'll say it again, we're sorry, he said on his knees. Rias. No, we were controlled by Ken, and that caused you to betray him for us, but now that he's with us, we won't let him go again. She said with a smile. Then an alarm sounds and they see on the screen that 4 people had entered Issei's house without his permission. They all quickly teleport to Issei's house to find out who they are. Chapter 6. Equipment and Attack. Issei and the 4 people he didn't know were in the living room while Akeno brought tea for everyone. Makima. Well, my name is Makima and I'm the leader of Team SS, she said with a smile. Aki. My name is Aki, it's a pleasure, he said seriously. Kabeni. My name is Kabeni, it's a pleasure, she said somewhat nervously, taking a sip of tea to calm her nerves. Power. My name is Power, nice to meet you, palm tree hair, she said mockingly. Akeno. Hey. She said angrily, releasing some lightning bolts, but Issei touched her shoulder to calm her down. That works, and she sits down. Issei. Well, my name is Issei, and tell me why you broke the lock on my house and entered without permission, he said seriously while taking a sip of tea. Makima. We're sorry about that, but our partner Power is impatient. She said, looking at Power seriously, which made her swallow hard. Power. Sorry about that, she said while lowering her head, avoiding Makima's gaze. Makima. Well, we're here because our leader, Israel, leader of the Aztecs, gave us the order to come here and team up with you and for you to be part of Team SS, she said seriously. Issei. What is Team SS? He said seriously. Aki. Well, we take care of killing the demons that cause trouble. In fact, we've already killed about 5,000 demons and 200 possessed people. He said seriously. Issei. So they want me to be part of their team, I don't know, he said, thinking. Then several magic circles appear, revealing Issei's factions and harem. Issei's harem, minus Akeno, checks him for injuries and finds he has nothing. This is how the SS team explains to them who they are and where they come from. The factions ask him to join them so that it will be easier to defeat the Chaos Brigade that was allied with those demons and rid of them. Issei. Well, but first, how much will I earn? He said, looking at them. Lakima. Well, each member of Team SS earns $50,000 for their services, and if we kill a powerful demon, we can ask for anything. Money, a house, an island, airplanes, women, anything. She said with a smile. Issei imagines having 100 maids, and that they would do whatever he asked. But he was pulled by the cheeks by Rias and Asia, who knew what he was thinking. Rias. What are you thinking about, Issei? She said with a sweet smile but unleashing destructive power. Asia. Issei-san, if you want to see naked girls then, she said as she started to take off her clothes, but Issei stopped her. Issei. No, wait, he said while stopping her. After calming down the jealous girls, Issei gives his answer. Issei. I accept, he said with a smile. Lakima. Perfect, she said with a smile and took a uniform out of her briefcase. Lakima. It's the mandatory uniform for Team SS. We'll come for you tomorrow morning. Until then. She said while giving him a kiss on the cheek. Lakima. See you later, she said as she left, just like the others. Power. See you later, Don Juan, he said as he left, taking the plate of cookies with him. The others were jealous when they saw what Makima did, but they let it go. Some time later. Issei and Rias were on the roof of the mansion looking at the stars. Issei. Tell me something, Rias, how did I meet you? He said while looking at the stars. Rias. Well, you used to study at Kuoh Academy, the school that used to be all girls, but is now co-ed. You, like Mitsuda and Motohama, were perverts, but one day you met a human named Yuma, she said seriously, but got angry remembering Rainer. Rias. She told you she fell in love with you, you accepted, but one weekend you went on a date, and at the end she revealed she was a fallen angel and killed you. She said seriously. Rias. But you, with your little strength, summoned me since you had a summoning pamphlet. So that you wouldn't die, I made you a demon, the pawn, using the 8 pawn pieces, she said seriously. So she told him everything she did, like rescuing Asia, helping her with her engagement to Razor, saving her and Sona from Gabriel, sealing Loki, giving Diodora, who was responsible for Asia's expulsion, the worst beating, and much more. Issei was surprised by everything he heard and looked at Rias. Issei. Well, I don't know what to say, all of this is new to me, but I promise I'll protect you all. I won't let any demon touch you. He said while taking their hands. Rias cried tears of joy. She, like the others, had been unable to resist when Ken controlled them, but she promised that this time she would protect Issei as he protects her and the others. Rias. Issei, I love you so much, she said while giving him a passionate kiss which Issei reciprocated. Issei and Rias decide to return to the others who were asleep and they fall asleep with them. The next day. Issei was seen getting ready for his first day, dressed in the uniform Makima had given him. The girls, upon seeing him, almost took him to their room to make him their own, but they restrained themselves. But they noticed that Issei couldn't put on his tie, so Ravel goes to Issei and helps him put on his tie. Ravel. Ready, he said with a smile. Issei gives her a kiss on the forehead, which makes her blush. Issei. Thank you, Ravel, he said with a smile. Then they hear the door and Issei quickly goes to the door. Issei saw Makima and her team ready. Makima. Ready for your first day? She said with a smile. Issei. Of course, he said with a smile. Issei says goodbye to his harem and they walk away. Issei. It's great that Rias made me breakfast, he said while holding a paper bag. Makima. We'll have breakfast together in a few hours. Well, I'll tell you how this job works. We have to kill at least one demon a day. If we don't, we'll be in trouble. It's never happened to us before, so the more we look, the better. She said with a smile. So they walked around looking for some demon, but found nothing. They decide to go to a building to eat their breakfasts. They were eating while chatting a bit. Issei. And tell me what powers you have, he said, looking at them. Aki. Well, I have a contract with the fox demon and I have the sword of curses, he said seriously. Power. I am possessed by the blood demon, don't worry, I'm not a threat, she said with a smile. The Benny. I also have a contract with the fox demon, she said blushing. Lakima. Mine is confidential, I can't say, sorry, she said with a smile. Issei. Okay, well, I have, he said but was interrupted. Aki. You're possessed, you have a power unknown even to us, he said seriously. Lakima. That's right, what happened to you before? She said confused. Issei told them how he was killed by the zombie demon and how his pet Pachita gave him her heart. Lakima. Wow, interesting. It's the first time I've heard of that demon. she said, interested. At that moment, Aki receives a call and stands up. Aki. It's time to work, there's a possessed person, he said seriously. That way everyone goes where it is. They arrived at a house where several police officers were. They enter and Issei pulls a machete from his back. Power. Why do you have that? She said, confused. Issei. A cautious person is worth two, he said seriously. They went up to the second floor and upon entering a room they saw a possessed person. Demon. Damn it, how I hate Team SS, they always kill us. He said angrily. Aki. Well, since you're the new one, show us what you're made of. She said, looking at him. Issei. Well, he said as he ran towards the demon and cut off its head. That leaves everyone confused. Aki. Why didn't you use your power? He said, confused. Issei. I felt it was unnecessary, besides, he was just a possessed person, there was no need to use my power, he said, looking at them. Lakima. That makes sense. She said as she left with the others. Issei saw everyone leaving, and when he saw that everyone had left, he looked in a box. Issei. Heh, I didn't really want to get blood on the porn magazines, well, demon, I ended your suffering so I'll keep these, he said while looking at the magazines. Issei. If porn is guaranteed, he said while putting away the magazines and leaving with his team. Some time later. Power. How boring, I wanted to kill a demon, he said while sighing heavily. Issei. I don't think we'll find one, he said as he walked alongside the others. Then they hear an alarm and see people running. Then they all run and see a demon that had a body made of eels. Lakima. She's the eel demon, she said seriously. Then they see several magic circles from which rebellious demons and rebellious fallen angels emerge. Issei. I see you're on the demon side. He said as he pulled his rope and summoned his saws. Aki points to some of the fallen and says. Aki. Fox, she said as a fox's head appeared and ate the fallen. The Benny runs with a knife and attacks the fallen and demons. Our summons a blood mace and runs towards the eel demon, along with Issei. Lakima made movements with her hands and killed the demons that tried to touch her. But she didn't realize that an eel was going to attack her, but Issei decapitated the eel with his chainsaw arm. Issei. Be careful. He said as he ran towards the demon. Lakima smiled and continued killing demons and fallen angels. Issei was killing the eels that the demon summoned and the demon was slowly getting closer to him. But an eel bites its abdomen, causing the magazines it was carrying to tear. Issei. You wretch. He said as he ran towards the demon and cut it to pieces. The demon screams in pain and Issei kills every eel the demon summons, tearing it to pieces. Issei saw that the others had no problems and saw that they finished them all off. Issei. Well, I think we finished them all off. He said with a smile. Kabeni. Yes, it's true, she said with a smile. Lakima. Okay, Issei and Kabeni, look for survivors. Aki, check if there's a demon or fallen angel hiding, well I'll write the report. She said seriously. Power. And what do I do? She said, looking at them. Lakima. Find a cat or I don't know, do something that won't bother us, she said, looking at her. Power. Understood, he said as he left. So everyone leaves to do what Makima said. Elsewhere. Rizavam was seen talking to the weapon demon. Rizavam. Well, it seems our first attack didn't work, so we have to send the leech demon and the bat demon to defeat Team SS, which is the strongest. He said seriously. Demon of weapons. If that's true, I'll give you some of my flesh so you can become stronger, he said while holding 2 bullets. Elsewhere. In the void, in the very nothingness, one could see the joined fragments that formed the symbol of Irachi. Okay, my symbol is repaired. I won't be able to return for a while, so I'm ordering the 3 of you to go and help Issei. He said seriously. 3 fallen angels were seen looking at the symbol and they were on their knees. The 3. Yes, Roberto-sama, they said respectfully. Roberto. Well, it'll take me a while to make a portal for you to go through, so good luck winning Issei's heart again. He said seriously. Thank you for giving us a second chance, said a fallen dark-haired angel. 2. This time we won't make the same mistake, said a fallen blonde angel. 3. And we will give her the love we didn't give her in the past, said a fallen blue-haired angel. Roberto. That's how it will be. Well, wait patiently while I make the portal to take you to Earth. He said while doing his work. Chapter 7. Appointment with the Sitri. After killing the eel demon, they return to their homes and Issei returns to his mansion. When his harem arrived, they saw him covered in blood and checked him from head to toe. Asia, seeing that he had a bite on his abdomen, began to heal him. Issei. Thank you, Asia, he said while patting her head. Asia blushes and smiles as she continues to heal Issei. Rias. Issei, why didn't you call us? We would have come to help you. She said seriously but worried. Issei. Don't worry, I'm fine. Besides, you were busy with your hell business, so I didn't want to bother you. He said with a smile. Irina. Next time, call us even if we're busy, she said with a smile. Issei smiled at him, and he remembered how he used to work alone when killing demons, and when he asked the Yakuza for help, they told him to do it alone. Issei smiled as he saw that his harem was willing to help him on his demon-slaying missions. The next day. It was the weekend for Issei, and it was lucky because on weekends the SS team was free and another team took charge on those days. While Issei was eating with his harem, the girls told him that he would have a date with two of them so that he could get to know them better. Issei. Okay, but who are they? He said, looking at them. Sona and Serafal. They said with a smile. Issei. Okay, he said, looking at them. Some time later. Issei was seen outside his house waiting for Sona and Serafal. As the door opened, he blushed upon seeing Sona and Serafal dressed for their date, captivated by their beauty. Issei. Wow, they look very beautiful, he said blushing. Serafal. Thank you, Issei-kun, she said, blushing. Sona won't admit it, but she felt happy when she heard Issei call her beautiful. So the three of them went to different places where they all had fun. They went to the mall where Issei bought Sona a costume and Serafal a cosplay outfit. Issei. Thinking, it's good that they paid me in advance, he thought while looking at Serafal and Sona who had some clothes. After that they went to the library where Sona and Serafal were reading, and Issei was also reading a book about war because he was interested in it. After that they went to the zoo where they enjoyed seeing the animals, but Issei felt nostalgic because seeing the animals reminded him of Pachita. Then they went to the cinema where they saw a movie. Finally, it was night and time to return, but Issei wanted to do something more. Issei. Girls, to end our date, I want you to come with me to a special place, he said with a smile. Both were curious, so they agreed and went into the forest. When they arrived, the girls were confused, wondering what they were doing in the forest. Sona. Issei, what are we doing here? She said confused. Issei. Just wait a moment, when I had nothing, Pachita and I used to come here to see you all, he said with a smile. Both. See them, they said, confused. Then a firefly appeared, its color visible. After that, several fireflies appeared and put on a beautiful show. They both gazed in fascination at the fireflies. The light they gave off was beautiful. Issei. And how about that? He said with a smile. Sona. It's beautiful, she said, watching the show they were putting on. Serafal. It's cute, she said, watching the show with fascination. Issei. I'm glad, he said as he sat down on a log and Sona and Serafal sat down next to Issei. Both rest their heads on his shoulders, something Issei doesn't complain about. They both remember how they both fell in love with Issei. At first, Issei didn't feel anything for Sona because of his perversion, but everything changed when she revealed her dream at a meeting of young demons. Everyone mocked her, but Issei defended her like a man. She sparked a great interest in Issei, especially when she was about to be attacked by a group of very powerful fallen angels, and Issei arrived to protect her and his queen. Serafal recalled how she and Issei did a special show for children, and of course, she let Issei touch her breasts as part of the show. But at the end of the show he apologized to her for touching her breasts, but she told him it was okay. After that, she developed an interest in Issei when she was about to be killed by an attack from Trihixa, but Issei saved her, especially when he prevented her from being sealed along with Trihixa. She finally saw how Issei, Roberto, Great Red, Nyx, Office and Shiva, who represents the Earth, launched a combined attack, ending the life of the Trihixa. After that, she and Sona confessed their feelings, which Issei reciprocated. Thus they remembered those beautiful memories they both had, but they also remembered how they were controlled by Ken and the torture they inflicted on Issei against his will. When they were freed from that control, they cried like never before. Sirzechs had to take over Serafal's job, and Saji had to take over Sona's job. They fell into a deep depression and almost committed suicide, but were saved by their parents. They, like the others, were going to do the same, but Buddha, the god of Buddhism, gave them the location of where Issei was. When they saw him, they wanted to kiss him and apologize for not being strong, but when they saw that he didn't remember them, it hurt, but they weren't going to give up easily. If Issei made them both fall in love, they would fall in love with Issei. Sona. Thank you, Issei, she said as she took him in her arms and kissed him. Serafal. Thank you, Issei-kun, she said, giving him a kiss. Thus they both continue to witness the spectacle of nature, and with the courage they possessed, they say. Sona. Issei, she said while he looked at her. Issei. Yes, he said with a smile. Sona. I want to be yours, she said with a blush. Serafal. Nuevo, I wanted to tell him that first, she said with a pout. Issei is surprised and blushes and says. Issei. Are you sure? He said blushing. Sona. Yes, you're our fiancé, our boyfriend, it's normal to do this, she said with a smile. Issei. Well, that's fine. He said with a smile. So they go to a hotel to have their first time. Elsewhere. Roberto's wives were seen visiting his grave, all of them crying, while their children watched and comforted them. Kurumi. Roberto, please forgive me for being weak, she said crying while looking at the grave. Aphrodite. Roberto, without you, being a goddess has no meaning if you're not by my side, she said crying on her knees. Lucoa. Roberto, I promise I will take care of our children for you, and we will also kill the demons that were released by your death, she said while leaving him some flowers. Miyuki. Roberto, once we're done with this, we'll meet up with you, we promise. She said crying while putting down some tacos al pastor, which were Roberto's favorite. Elsewhere. Roberto was seen watching this, and it saddened him to see his wives like this. Roberto. Please be patient, I will return, and once I do, I will give each of you a child. He said, confident in his words. It's clear they love him, said the dark-haired fallen angel. Roberto. Yes, and I love you all very much too. You can feel that way too when you become Issei's girlfriends. He said with a smile as his symbol glowed white. Roberto. My body isn't ready yet, but the portal will take 2 days to build, so be patient, girls. He said seriously. The three. Yes, they said while talking about how they would seduce Issei with lingerie, give him an aphrodisiac, so that he would lose control and mark them as his, and they said the names they would give to the children they would have with him. Roberto. Thinking, these fools are going to leave you very dry, especially because of the little gift I gave Mitlet, he thought while continuing to repair his symbol and create his body. Issei was sitting on a bed waiting for Sona and Seraphol, who told him to wait. Issei. I wonder what they do in the bathroom, he said while waiting. Then he sees the bathroom door open and Sona and Seraphol come out wearing bathrobes. Issei. I see you took your time. He said, looking at his 2 girlfriends. Seraphol. Yes, but the wait was worth it, she said while taking off her robe where she was wearing hexy lingerie. Sona did the same, and she too had lingerie that would make anyone drool. Issei blushed deeply as a little saliva escaped from his mouth. Sona blushed as she saw Issei looking at her, while Seraphol chuckled at Issei's reaction. Lemon skipped. Seraphol began to move up and down once she became accustomed to Issei's member, and she let out moans of pleasure. Seraphol was happy to surrender to Issei. She still remembers all the torture he inflicted on her against her will. When she fought Ken, she cried and begged him not to, but he still ended up controlling her. When she broke free from her mind control, they had to put her in a straitjacket because she was always torturing herself with her power. She was being cared for by Yasaka, who was equally devastated. She cried on Yasaka's shoulder and couldn't forgive herself for doing that to Issei. When he recovered and they took off his shirt, he tried to return to his position as Mayu, but guilt overwhelmed him. Sirzechs had to take over Seraphol's work even though she did what she could. When Buddha told them where Issei was, that childish attitude returned, and without thinking, he went to Issei and begged for his forgiveness on his knees. But it hurt her to know that he no longer remembered her, but that wouldn't stop her from getting Issei back. She would do anything to make Issei love her like before. Seraphol. I'm coming, she said, giving a strong thrust to Issei's member, and he also came. Seraphol lay down on the bed next to her sister, but this wasn't over yet. Issei. Girls, I'm not finished with you yet, he said while taking Sona and penetrating her, which excited her, and she let Issei do whatever he pleased with her body. In Issei's room, only the moans and cries of pleasure from the 3 of them could be heard, and they lasted all night. In the forest. A portal was visible from which 3 Aztecs emerged. Well girls, we're back, but now we're not Fulin anymore, we're Aztecs, she said while looking at her brown wings. 2. Well, let's go to the mall to buy lingerie so Issei will love us, she said as the 3 of them, without wasting any time, went to a clothing store to start their plan. Let's hope Rias doesn't kill us again, she said while feeling somewhat nervous upon seeing Rias again. Elsewhere. The Irachi seal appeared more restored as he gazed at a soul. Roberto. So you want to come back too? He said while looking at the soul. Yes, I was threatened by that bastard Rizavum, said the soul. Roberto. Well, I'll bring you back, but it will take a while since my seal is still recovering. He said seriously. How can you die? You're the strongest being of all. She said, confused. Roberto. Well, I self-destructed to defeat that bastard Ken. If I hadn't, everything would have been dominated by him and Rizavum. He said seriously. I understand, she said seriously. Roberto began to create the new body for women, and Roberto was still in the process of constructing his own body. Chapter 9. Reunion and Enemies. Issei and Yasaka were seen watching Kuoh, their daughter. Kuoh shows him a drawing of himself in his chainsaw form. Kuoh. How are you, daddy? She said while showing him her drawing. Issei. It looks beautiful on you, daughter, he said while stroking her hair. Isaka smiled and the dismissal bell rang. They left like a family and Issei went to get some ice cream, but when he returned he saw Yusaka throwing a guy into a trash can. Issei. What happened? He said, looking at his beloved. Yusaka. Nothing, it's just that that guy was flirting with me and he even touched my butt, who does he think he is? She said angrily. Issei. Well, I see you took care of him. Here, I brought you a chocolate one. He said while giving him his ice cream. Isaka takes it and smiles at him, watching as Kuoh plays with some children. Isaka. It's been a long time since I've seen Kuoh this happy, she said while smiling. Isaka. When you were captured, Kuoh was always sad, always crying in her room asking day and night for her father to return. When you came back into our lives, she became that happy girl she always is again. She said while remembering the time she would enter Kuno's room and have to hug her until she fell asleep. Issei. Well, now I'll be responsible for making sure that smile never fades. Whenever she's sad, I'll make her smile. Whenever she's in danger, I'll save her. No matter if I die, I'll make sure she never feels alone again. He said with a determination that very few people possessed. Isaka smiled and kissed Issei, which he reciprocated without hesitation. Then they hear screams and see people running for their lives. Kuoh quickly goes to both adults and hugs them. Kuoh. What's happening? She said, but then saw two demons fighting against Makima and the others. Issei. Take Kuoh away quickly, I'll fight. He said, activating his saws. Isaka wanted to refuse, but she thought of her daughter first, and they both left. Issei lunged towards the demon who was throwing cars at him. Issei. Where is power? He said while cutting through the cars the demon was throwing at him. Hibeni. She was eaten by the vampire demon, that's him, he said while dodging a car that was thrown at him. Issei watched as Aki and Makima fought against the other demon. Issei. Who is the other demon? He said as he lunged at the demon, trying to cut off its arm, but he couldn't. Hibeni. It's the leech demon. They attacked us by surprise, just the two of them, and we thought they'd be easy, but no, she said as she was hit by the vampire demon, sending her flying. Issei tried to cut the vampire demon, but its skin was so thick that even his saws couldn't cut through it. Vampire demon. It will be useless, I have the flesh of the weapon demon, so you and your little group of weaklings don't stand a chance, he said while making a cut on Issei's chest. Issei lunged again, but saw 3 spears of light strike the vampire demon squarely. The demon screamed in pain as the light hurt him too much. Issei saw 3 girls who had brown wings. Imagine that your wings are brown. We're sorry we're a little late, darling, said the blue-haired girl. Issei watched as the blonde girl created a magic circle, while both of them plunged another spear into his arms. It's your turn, Issei, deliver the final blow, said the dark-haired woman as the vampire demon stood up, but chains bound his feet. Issei runs towards it and using all his strength cuts it in half, where inside were Power and a cat in a cage. Power. Issei, is that you? He said weakly while on the floor. Issei. Yes, calm down, you're fine. He said while she was still on the floor. The leech demon was angry to see the vampire demon defeated, so she lunged at Issei, but a huge fox ate her head. Makima. Aki, that's not the fox you made a contract with. She said, looking at Aki. Aki. No, it isn't. The fox is white and this one is yellow. She said as the fox glowed and transformed into its human form. It was none other than Yusaka who went to help Issei return to normal. Yusaka. As promised, we will always help you no matter what. She said as she approached Issei and saw his wound. Then he saw the dark-haired girl throw herself at Issei and give him a passionate kiss that made Issei blush and Yusaka jealous. Yusaka. Issei, who is she? She said jealously, holding a blue flame in her hand. Yusaka became even more jealous when she saw the blonde loli throw herself at Issei and kiss him, and to top it off, the blue-haired girl approached Issei and kissed him, but then she took Issei's hands and placed them on her breasts. We missed you so much, Issei, she said while hugging him. Issei. Excuse me, but who are you? He said, confused. Yusaka. You have a lot to explain, Rainer, Mitlet and Kalwerner, she said while remembering who they were thanks to Rias who explained them to her in the past. Scene change. Rainer, Middler and Kalwerner were seen tied up while some girls watched them, clearly unhappy to see them. Rias. How did they come back to life? I killed them, but if they come back to hurt my Issei again, I swear I will never forgive them. She said while activating her power of destruction. Mio. And this time I'll personally take care of killing them, he said while activating his glove. Rainer. Wait, we never meant to hurt Issei, she said while lowering her head. Akeno. What are you saying? She said while confused. Middler. We did it because we had no other choice. It was either kill Issei at that time or become Kakabiel's hex slaves, she said seriously. Hineko. How can we believe them? She said while displaying her Nekomata features. Palwerner. They can read our memories, she said as she let them read her memory. Thus Karabit approaches the three and begins to read the memory of each one. Karabit. They're not lying, even they love Issei, he said, looking at the three of them. So they untie the three girls and look at them. Rias. How did they come back to life? She said while looking at the three. Rainer. We can't tell you, we promised him we wouldn't tell anyone, not even the factions. Look, we're not even fallen angels anymore, now we're Aztecs. She said while taking out her 4 brown wings, just like Middler and Kalwerner. Rainer approaches Asia, who gets scared and backs away, but Zenobia and Irina protect her, and then they see her fall to her knees. Rainer. Asia, I know I hurt you a lot in the past, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. It wasn't my intention to hurt you, just like Issei. Gabriel threatened me to do it. During the time we lived together, I saw you as the little sister I never had. When I thought I had killed you and Rias killed me, I cried the whole time knowing I had killed someone so pure. She said crying on her knees. Rainer. I'll understand if you hate me, I hate myself for hurting you, but I hope that one day you can forgive me. She said, expecting a slap from Asia, but instead she hugged her. Asia. I felt your sincerity in your words, so we can try again, she said while taking Middler and Kalwerner's hands. Asia. The 4 of us together, all together we will love Issei, and we will never hurt him again, she said with a smile. The 3 Aztecs hugged Asia, who smiled, and they went to Issei, who was talking to Kabeni, who had gone to his house to stay, since her building had been destroyed by demons. Rias. Hello Issei, well, you see, because your memory is wrong, I want to introduce you to Rainer, Middler, and Kalwerner, your first partners, she said jealously, since it was true. Rainer. Issei, she said as she lunged towards him and kissed him. Issei is no longer surprised since the same thing had happened to him in the morning. Issei. But why didn't I see them before? He said, confused. Middler. You see, years ago we were killed by a fallen angel named Gabriel, she said, taking Issei's hand. Kalwerner. You, in all your anger, lunged at him and killed him, he said while grabbing his chin. Rainer. And that day we separated from you, but thanks to a generous man he gave us a second chance, so I hope you continue to love us, she said while smiling. Issei. Well, I don't really know them, he said while sounding doubtful. Rainer. Then it will be by force, she said while taking out a rope and tying up Issei, and the 3 Aztecs take Issei to a room. Rias. Hey, Issei's virginity is mine. She said jealously. Serafal. Actually, Issei is no longer a virgin, she said with a playful smile. Rias. What are you saying? She said jealously. Serafal. Issei lost his virginity to me and Sotan, she said while hugging her sister. Rias was annoyed because her best friend had gone ahead. Rias. Sona, you have a lot to explain. She said while having an aura of destruction. Isaka. You too, Serafal, she said while both sisters just stared at the furious state of everyone else. Rainer. Asia, you can join us if you want, she said while shouting in a room where the 3 of them tied Issei to the bed. Asia heard him and without thinking twice she ran towards where the 3 Aztecs were with Issei. Rias was furious that she hadn't heard Rainer's scream, and Rias, along with the others, began to chase Sona and Serafal, who were running for their lives. Elsewhere. In the same nothingness, a great light could be seen from which Roberto's body emerged in his Irachi form. So you can go back to Earth now, he said, looking at Roberto. Roberto. No, not yet. I have to build my false leader persona and return all my seals of God. It will take me about 6 months to return, but I can take you with me. He said while looking at the soul that formed a beautiful woman with tanned skin and breasts that rivaled Ria's. Viteria. This time I'll do things right, she said with a smile. Roberto. That's how it will be. You can go to the Aztec faction. My Aztecs will give you refuge. Just tell them some codes I'll give you and they'll take care of it. He said with a smile. Viteria. Okay, she said with a smile. Thus the body of the god who gave his life to save everyone from Ken's hands was being rebuilt to return and destroy the true demons once and for all. Chapter 10. New Tenants. Issei was waking up after that passionate night he had with the 4 girls. He still remembers how Rainer rode him and screamed with pure pleasure. She remembered more the lesbian acts at 4 o'clock where she saw Asia and Middler doing a scissor position. How Kalwerner and Rainer exchanged lesbian kisses and how he broke the bed ropes and showed no mercy to either of them. She still remembers the words that said it was 4 o'clock. More Issei-kun, give me more. Issei-san, forgive me for being a sinner. Issei, hit me from behind and leave me in a wheelchair. I hair no kiai. Issei was standing up, watching as the 4 of them had big smiles, but he saw a tattoo that caught his attention. Middler had a canary yellow dragon tattoo on his right arm. Rainer had one on her left breast, wine-colored. Alwerner had one on his right chest, navy blue in color. And Asia had one on her thigh, mustard yellow in color. So he would ask later, so he went to take a bath, washing the sweat off his body and looking in the mirror at the hickeys he had on his neck. Issei. I'll have to wear a scarf, he said while looking at some scratches Alwerner left on him, but he remembers how he took revenge on her by penetrating her harder and without mercy. So he took a bath and when he came downstairs he saw Rias and Akeno making breakfast. Both. Good morning, darling, they said with a smile. Issei. Good morning, girls. He said as he sat down and watched the girls come down one by one. Ravel, Kaneko, and Afa saw their seat empty and ran through the. In the end, Kuoh won, who had arrived earlier. Kuoh. Good morning, Odo-san, she said with a smile. Issei. Good morning, darling, he said while stroking her head. Kuoh looked at the three of them and gave them a victorious smile, making them jealous. They sat in other chairs while watching Kuoh sitting on Issei's lap. So once the table was set with all the girls and Issei, he saw that Rainer, Alwerner, Middler, and Asia had a slight limp. Issei. Thinking, I think I went too far, I shouldn't have told them to build the pleasure tower, he thought, but a perverted smile appeared on his face as he remembered that. Isaka. What are you thinking about, darling? She said while pulling his cheek. Issei. Nothing, Yasa-chan, he said as she stopped doing it. Rias and Akeno arrive with the food and begin to eat, as does Kabeni, who was nervous being around so many people. Then they hear the doorbell ring several times and see the doorknob fly off while a trail of blood is visible. They all pulled out their weapons and powers and watched as Power entered with a suitcase and her cat on her shoulder. Power. What a great mansion, don't you think, Nyako? He said while his cat meowed. Some time later. Issei was seen chasing Power while she had a piece of bread with jam. Issei. Give me back that bread. He said in his chainsaw mode while chasing her. Power. Make me, dog, he said while making walls of blood, but Issei cut them down. The girls tried to stop him, but he wouldn't stop, while Kuoh, Kabeni, and Office watched the chase eating popcorn. Meanwhile, Rias and Akeno had a magic circle and were talking to Israel. Israel. I need you to give Kabeni and Power lodging, please, he said while looking at them. Rias. And why in our house? She said while looking at him. Akeno. And she's also very rude, she said while she saw Issei cornering Power, who then licked the bread and gave it to Issei. Power. Enjoy it, you rascal. She said as she left with a victorious look on her face. Issei looked at the bread for a few moments, didn't care, and started eating it. Rias. He definitely can't be here, she said while looking at the leader. Israel. Let's make a deal. I'll give you a lifetime spell to multiply Issei into several clones. He said while looking at both of them. Rias. And what good will that do us? She said, not understanding. Israel. Well, are you stupid or what, Rias? He said while wearing a hat and a fake mustache. Rias got annoyed by that, and this continues. Israel. Well, just think for a moment, two Isseis having them, or better yet, penetrating them at the same time, he said as both of them turned red with embarrassment. Akeno had a seductive look on her face as she imagined a scenario. Issei 1. Don't think you'll get out of your punishment that easily, he said while penetrating his anus and giving him a good spanking. Issei 2. These cow tits must be punished, he said while penetrating her vagina and pinching her breasts. Akeno. Kaya, forgive me for being a bore, scream of pure ecstasy. Issei 3. We need to wash that little mouth of yours very well, he said while grabbing her head and forcing her to suck his member. Thus Akeno was the hex toy of several Isseis, some of whom were lined up for their turn. Akeno. This is heaven, she thought excitedly at being treated like this by the love of her life. Akeno's mind ends. Akeno blushed deeply as she sighed excitedly, and a small trickle of blood trickled from her nose. Rias thought that too, and she had a thought. Rias was held on a hex swing, while two Issei penetrated her anus and vagina. Rias. Harder, she screams with excitement but receives a slap from another Issei's member. Issei 3. I have to teach you a lesson about not screaming, he said while grabbing her hair and making her suck his member. Rias had a look of pure lust on her face and watched as her other harem companions were enjoying other Isseis. Rias watched as those enjoying it the most were Kuroka, Akeno, Rainer, and Aika. They were enjoying it to the fullest. The end of Ria's mind. Rias also had a trickle of blood while she had that on her mind. Akeno. Issei, have mercy on this boar, she thought with great lust while she couldn't stop thinking about it. Rias. Issei, that's not my vagina, she thought while continuing to think that. Israel. Leader of the Aztecs calling the cow breasts and the sadistic masochist, he said while receiving no response. Israel. Well, I guess they don't want the deal. Oh well, I guess I'll have to take Issei to the loving Aztecs. He said, but felt a great chill and saw that both of them were very furious. Both. Don't even think about it, they said while having a terrifying aura. Israel. Well, do you accept or not? He said as both of them answered without hesitation. Both. Deal, they said without any regret. Israel. Okay, bring paper and a pencil so I can tell you the spell. He said as they both quickly pulled out a pen and paper. So Israel tells them the spell, which they both write down without missing a single detail. Israel cut off communication, and both had victorious smiles as they watched Issei help the girls from the mess he made by chasing power. Some time later. Our looked at the breakfast, which was curry with rice. Our. I hate these damn vegetables. He said as he grabbed the vegetables and threw them, but Issei quickly caught them. Issei. Hey, you know Rias and Akeno worked hard making breakfast, and you throw away something as delicious as this, you bitch. He said while looking at the vegetables in his hand and eating them. Our didn't care, well Rias and Akeno thanked him for appreciating their food. Scene change. Our. I'm the one who flushes the toilet sometimes, she said while looking at the toilet full of shit. Sona. Pull the damn chain, she said furiously while holding 2 ice stakes. Issei. Your shit stinks, he said while covering his nose. Scene change. Our. I'm the one who takes bath sometimes, she said while looking at the bathtub. Aphrodite. Take a bath, she said, preparing a major attack. Issei. You stink of shit, he said while looking at her. Our. What's wrong with you? You're so demanding, aren't you, Nyako? He said as he took his cat away. Ebony was very nervous and she wasn't one to socialize with many people, but she started getting along well with Asia and Irina while the three of them were watching a romantic movie. Some time later. Issei. That bitch Power will pay for this. He said while trying to unclog the toilet that Power had clogged. It took Issei 5 hours to unclog the toilet because it had crusted over and he couldn't leave. Finally, Issei took a bath and went to his room where his girls were waiting for him. So he got in the middle, and it didn't take a minute for them all to snuggle up as best they could to his body. Issei saw Yusaka sleeping like this, so he used Yusaka's breasts as pillows and slept with a smile. Chapter 11 Demon of Eternity. Everyone except Makima could be seen in a building. Issei. Can you tell me again why Makima-san didn't come? He said while chewing gum that Aki gave him. Aki. Makima-sama is busy with other matters, so we have to do this mission. She said while smoking. Power. We understand, but who's that pirate over there? She said while pointing at a girl with an eye patch. Himeno. My name is Himeno, it's a pleasure, she said with a smile. Himeno approaches Issei and sees him. Himeno. So you're the boy who can turn into a chainsaw? She said while looking at him. Issei. Yep, my name is Issei, he said with a smile. Himeno. I see, how about I give you a reward if you defeat the demon inside? I can give you a kiss. She said while looking at him. Issei. Oh boy, I don't think it's going to be possible. My fiancé said they wouldn't accept anything from any other girls besides them. He said, remembering how they all told him not to get close to any other women besides them. Himeno. I see, and out of curiosity, how many fiancés do you have? She said while looking at him. Issei. Well, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, no, I can't count that far, but I do have many very pretty girls, he said with a smile. Both Aki and Himeno had a bead of sweat on their brows, and the other boy accompanying them was envious of him. Boy. I don't think you have that many fiancés, he said, looking at him. Issei. Oh no, you bastard, look at this, he said while showing him a picture of himself with all his fiancés hugging him, but Rias and Akeno were hugging him so tightly that their breasts were in his face. The boy was envious of him, especially when he saw that they were all beautiful. So they entered, and upon entering they saw the place was empty, and they went up the stairs where they saw a demon's head. Power lunges for the head and slices it in half. Power. That was it, how ridiculous, he said while Kibeni was on the verge of a heart attack. So they walk on, but they noticed that the place was an infinite place since the floor was the same. Both Kibeni and the boy panicked, and then Issei. Issei. Well, I'll take a nap. He said as he lay down on one of the beds. Issei. Demon Lord, thank you for this little nap you're giving me, he said as he fell asleep. Then Issei's snores are heard. Aki. The bastard fell asleep, she said while watching him sleep. 4 hours later. Issei woke up and the first thing he saw was Power saying nonsensical things. Himeno. Issei-kun, the blood demon girl has already lost her mind, she said, watching Power say how she would win the Nobel Prize and have everyone at her feet. Issei. No, she's always like this, and what about discovering the place? He said while looking at Himeno. Himeno. Well, the elevators aren't working, the clocks always strike 12, we had to put Kibeni to sleep because he tried to use the toilet and the guy there is panicking, just like Kibeni, and we found very little food, enough for 2 days, she said while Issei just sighed. Boy. Okay, if we store the food we can survive for a long time. He said as he went to the place where they left the food but saw that there was nothing left. The boy saw and noticed that power ate everything. Power. He forced me, he said with his mouth full, pointing at Issei. Issei. No, isn't it? You ate everything, you damn bitch. He said as they both started arguing. Then the boy enters the room where everyone was. Boy. We have a problem, the head that power cut off is growing back, he said as everyone left and saw that the place was filling up with flesh. Power threw a blood spear at him, but it didn't work, just like Himeno who tried to crush him with her power, but that didn't work either. So they enter a room and the whole room tilts, where the boy almost falls into the demon's flesh, but he is saved by Aki. Demon of Eternity. I have a deal for you, give me the chainsaw boy, and I'll let you go, it doesn't matter if he's dead, I just want his body, he said while everyone listened. Power. Well, he already said it, she said while grabbing Issei and trying to throw him, but Himeno chokes her with her power. Aki. We won't give it to Issei, he said seriously. Issei. Yeah, he must be lying. He said as the boy tried to do the same, but Issei punched him, knocking him unconscious. Aki. No, a demon's word is loyal. If he says yes, he'll let us go. She said while Kobeni was panicking. They were hesitating, and Aki was about to use his cursed sword, but Himeno stopped him. Kobeni then tried to stab Issei, who was prepared, but Aki broke free from Himeno's power and took the stab himself. Kobeni. What did I do, what did I do? She said in a panic. Issei only saw that Aki was bleeding out and he made a decision. Issei. Power, do you think you can stop Aki's bleeding? He said while looking at her. Power. I can only control mine, but I'll try. I'm not doing it for you, you scoundrel, I'm only doing it so you don't tell on me to that big-breasted pigtail-wearing woman. He said while starting to stop Aki's bleeding. Himeno. You will surrender, she said while looking at him. Issei. Yes, but I'll fight back. I won't die until I've made all my fiancés mine and touched your breasts until I'm tired. He said while pulling his cord and launching himself towards the Demon of Eternity. This is how Issei's laughter sounds, and the Demon of Eternity is accompanied by the sound of flesh being crushed. 3 days later. Aki. How long have you been carrying that wound? She said while her face was already grey from having that wound for so long. Himeno. 3 days, she said as the voice of the Demon of Eternity was heard. Demon of Eternity. Please stop, here is my heart, please kill me already, he said while showing his heart to Issei. Issei. He's tired of it, well, die, bitch, he said while burying his chainsaw in the heart of the Demon of Eternity. This is how Himeno is seen carrying Aki and Kobeni the boy, and Issei is very tired. Issei was about to fall to the ground, but someone catches him. Asia. Issei-san, she said while taking him, but then Ross and Kuroka arrived who were worried about Issei and began to heal him and give him some of their energy. That's how all of Issei's girls arrived and started treating him. Issei. Thank you, girls. Asia, could you heal Aki? He said as Asia nodded and healed Aki, who was surprised to be healed. The boy was envious of Issei because all the girls were beautiful, especially those with large breasts. The boy knew he was going to the hospital after that, but it would be worth it. The boy was about to touch Gabriel's breasts, but Issei noticed and moved with incredible speed, grabbing the boy's arm. Issei. What were you going to play? He said, showing his teeth and looking furious. The boy was scared and a loud scream was heard in the area. The men nearby felt frightened and touched their crotches, just like Aki. Some time later. Issei was eating a meal that Rias made for him. Issei. How did they know where I was? He said while eating rice. Rias. We've been looking for you for 3 days. When we sensed your power, we arrived, but what happened? She said while Kobeni and Power ate the food the girls gave them. So Issei told them what happened, of course, without mentioning the part where Power was going to throw him into the demon, which he owed him after helping him save Aki's life. The girls glared deathly at Kobeni, who was sweating profusely because all eyes were on her. Issei. Don't worry, I forgive you. There's no point in hating you. He said while continuing to eat. Then Mio approaches Kobeni and whispers to him. Mio. If you try to kill my little dragon again, I'll give you to Tartarus as a hex toy and I'll make you suffer for all eternity, she said with a deathly voice and murderous eyes that promised those words. Kobeni was so scared that she peed her pants and fell unconscious. So they leave the place feeling better after regaining their energy, but at one point the boy is seen dead in a campfire while on the floor. It said. That's what she gets for being a slut. Chapter 12 Party. Issei and the others were in a bar where they were drinking, but Issei was the only one who wasn't drinking because he didn't know how. Himeno. Hey, you don't drink. She said while handing him a mug of beer. Issei. Well, no, when I was with the Yakuza they strictly forbade me from drinking, since a dog like me shouldn't drink the drink of the gods or something like that, he said, while Himeno just puts the mug down and takes another one. Himeno. Look, beer is the drink of the gods, but you're not a dog anymore, now you're an SS hunter. Come on, let's just drink it. She said while Issei thought about her words and said. Issei. Well then, cheers, he said, taking a big gulp, but when he tasted the beer he pulled it back and made a face of disgust. Issei. Holy shit, this tastes like shit, he said while sticking out his tongue and trying to get rid of the taste. Himeno. Hahaha, you're a novice at drinking this, it's normal that it tastes disgusting to you, try to get used to the taste, if you manage to drink it all, I'll give you a little French kiss, what do you think? She said with a mischievous smile. Issei. I don't need the kiss since Akeno always gives me that kind of kiss, he said, remembering the times Akeno, before he went to work, would give him a passionate French kiss and at the end would touch his member, making him excited, but that was the end of it. Issei. Alright, let's drink this shit, he said while taking another sip that also tasted horrible, but he felt a bitter but pleasant taste which he liked and drank more and more. Issei. It tastes like shit, but it tastes good. He said while taking another sip. Himeno. I'm glad and look, you've finished your prize now. She said while taking Issei's cheeks and was about to kiss him, but Makima arrived and she lost concentration and vomited under the table. Issei. That's disgusting, I want another jar. He said as Kobeni took his jar and poured him another one. Kobeni was punished by Issei's girls by being their slave for a week, during which she had to obey all of Issei's orders, no matter what they were. Kobeni was initially terrified, thinking Issei would use her as a hex slave, but Issei only asked her for food, drinks, and to push him on the swings. At night, Kobeni could feel the death stares of some girls, such as Rias, Akeno, Kuroka, Yasaka, Ravel, and Penemu. She also felt the hateful stares from Asia, Zenobia, Irina, Kaneko, Lefei, Ingrid, Ross, and Aika. The others wouldn't speak to her after learning that she had tried to kill Issei, so she was thinking of a plan to apologize to everyone, especially Issei. So they drank like crazy, and Aki, Himeno, and Issei were already drunk. Himeno. Hahaha, seriously, I'm going to hit that clown hippie. She said while Issei was telling her an anecdote. Issei. Yes, I told him, damn Sepulin, hiccup, he said while both Aki and Himeno laughed. Wakima showed no signs of drunkenness, so they left and Power was carrying a drunk Aki and Issei and Himeno were walking while singing a song. Issei. Hiccup Kobeni, I'm entrusting Aki to you, please. You were a good girl. Here's a little something hiccup pineapple. He said drunkenly as he approached Kobeni, who was startled but received a kiss from Issei, leaving Kobeni very red, while Power just mocked her. Power. I think the virgin girl will stop being so virgin, she said while Kobeni turned very red and stayed there, but received a slap from Power. Power. I'm not going to leave this scoundrel alone, she said while Kobeni nodded and helped her take away the drunk Aki. Wakima just left, but rats followed her along the way. Issei and Himeno were hugging and drunkenly singing nonsensical songs as they walked. Himeno. And the bull mooed, the cow meowed, the cat meowed, and, she said but didn't finish because she went to a bush to vomit. Issei just had a perverted smile when he saw Himeno's cute butt and without thinking twice he gave her a slap on the behind. Himeno. Cheeky hip, she said while touching Issei's member and they both begin a game of groping. So they both arrive at Himeno's house and begin kissing and taking off their clothes. In Himeno's house, the moans and cries of pleasure from Himeno and the grunts and thumps of flesh from Issei could be heard. The next day. There was a room where Issei was naked, hugging a naked Himeno who had a big smile. Himeno slowly wakes up and sees him hugging Issei. Himeno. What happened last night? She said while touching her head, but remembering how she and Issei didn't stop until they were both satisfied. Himeno. Now I understand why he has a harem, he's a real tiger in bed, she said as she stood up and fell a little as she stood up. Himeno. I think it will be a little difficult for me to walk after that night, she said while walking very clumsily, and the headache doesn't help much. So she went into the kitchen and started cooking for both of them. Issei-san. He woke up slowly and touched his head in pain. Issei. My bucking head hurts, I don't think I should have drunk so much, what happened last night? He said as memories of last night came to him and he only remembered the spanking he gave Himeno and how they both did it like rabbits in heat. Issei. Damn, the girls are going to kill me when they find out, he said while going to the bathroom and when he looked at his neck, he saw several hickeys on it. Issei. Wow, I really did a lot with Himeno-sama last night. He said as he went to the living room and saw Himeno with 2 bowls of ramen. Himeno. Good morning, she said with a smile. Issei. Good morning, Himeno-sama, he said while Himeno pulled his cheek. Himeno. I told you not to use sama with me, I'm not an old woman, she said while Issei complained. So they both sit down and eat ramen. Issei. Holy shit, this is really spicy. He said while complaining about the spiciness. Himeno. Hey yeah, this is good for curing my hangover, here you go, she said while opening a beer. Himeno. Poison is killed with poison, if you eat everything you'll be as good as new, she said while Issei nodded and ate the spicy ramen and beer. So they eat and talk. Issei. About last night, I'm sorry, I think I got carried away. He said while Himeno just smiled at him. Himeno. You're joking, you were a beast with me last night, you're the first to give me the best orgasms of my life, even Hex toys didn't give me those pleasures, she said with a smile that made Issei feel proud of himself. Himeno. And tell me, do you feel anything for Makima? She said while Issei just thought about his answer for a minute and said. Issei. Actually, no. She has nice breasts and I'd gladly have Hex with her, but I wouldn't feel anything for her. Besides, Rias is better than her. She has those huge breasts that I can touch whenever I want. I see her naked every night, but I haven't had Hex with her, only with Sona, Serafal, Asia, Rainer, Kalwerner, and Middler. He said with a proud smile. Himeno. I see, I thought you were like Aki, chasing after Makima to be his partner, but the fool hasn't had a chance with her. And tell me about your girls, how are Power and Kabeni, who live at your house? She said while Issei was telling her story. Issei. Power is a dirty dog, she doesn't bathe in days and doesn't flush the toilet, I've had to empty the bathroom 5 times. The funny thing is that she's afraid of Serafal because one day she destroyed a magical girl cosplay, froze her and put her up as a chandelier for 5 days, he said while Himeno laughed because she imagined that. Issei. Kabeni is very timid and gets scared by everything, although I feel it's not a very good idea for her to live in our house since after the girls found out she tried to kill me, they hate her, especially Rias, but the good thing is I can ask her for anything for a week, he said while Himeno paid attention to him. Himeno. And tell me, did you ask her to be in her underwear or did you already take advantage of her like the tiger you are? She said with a mischievous smile. Issei. Well, I didn't just ask him to give me food, bring me drinks or sweets, I also asked him to push me on the swing, he said with a smile. Issei. I don't ask her for things like Hex since I have my other girls, and I don't ask her to undress in front of me, either since I have this, he said while taking out some photos where Rias, Akeno, Kuroka and Zenobia appear in various revealing outfits. Himeno. Wow, they have huge ones, she said while looking at the girl's breasts. Issei. I know, he said with a perverted smile. So they continued talking and sharing some things about their lives. Himeno. You know, we can be friends with benefits, she said with a mischievous smile. Issei. How is that? He said while looking at her. Himeno takes Issei's hand and places it on her chest. Himeno. We can have another meeting like this, but in secret. What do you say? She said with a smile. Issei. That sounds perfect to me, then friends, he said as he put out his hand to shake hers. Himeno. Of course, friends, she said with a smile. Issei finished his meal and said goodbye to Himeno, who did the same. So Issei returned to the mansion and upon arriving saw all his girls upset. Issei. Hey girls, I'm back, he said with an innocent smile. Rias. Where were you all night? She said angrily. Issei. Well, I stayed at Himeno-san's house, he said with a smile. Hineko and Kuroka smell something and begin to smell Issei. Kuroka. Issei Naya, why do you smell like a fox? She said with a dark expression. Hineko. Oh, right, one-san Issei senpai smells like a tramp, she said while also giving Issei a murderous look. Leo. Alpha, we're going to have a very serious conversation, she said while at a bestial speed, she tied up Issei. Issei. They're going to hit me, he said, a little scared. Office. We're not going to complain to you, she said while carrying Issei. Then they all go into a room where they put up a do not disturb sign. That's how you hear applause in the room and their cries of pleasure. 2 days later. Rias and Sona were seen leaving very sweaty and with traces of semen all over their bodies. Rias. I need some fresh air, she said while she had some difficulty walking. Sona. Me too, that room is an oven, she said while having trouble walking. Then they are dragged back into the room. Issei. Stop. I'm not finished with you yet. He said as he put them back in the room. Both. Kiaya, they screamed as Issei closed the room again and they continued with the action. Downstairs, Power is seen eating snacks while Kabeni breaks an ice cage courtesy of Sona and Serafal. Power. How much longer will they be in that room? She said bored while eating some snacks. Kabeni sits next to her and watches television with her. So Issei and his girlfriends didn't go out for 4 days. Chapter 13 Katana Man. Issei was seen in the living room eating with his harem. Power. And can you tell me why they all have wheelchairs? She said while noticing that all of them without exception were in wheelchairs. Issei. I'll tell you why I hit Rias hard against the wall, Akeno hard against the floor, Asia slowly into space, Zenobia violently in the seat, Kuroka without consolation on the ground, Kaneko hard on the bridge, Seraphol without pity in the arena, Ravel spicy on the shelf, and well, I don't have any other rhymes, he said. Well, Rias, Akeno, Asia, Zenobia, Kuroka, Kaneko, Seraphol and Ravel all got nosebleeds. The Benny blushed deeply upon hearing that, and Power understood. Power. Poetic, but I understand, he said while continuing to eat. Thus the three of them said goodbye, since none of them could make Issei's breakfast because of his wheelchair. They asked a maid from Ria's family to take care of the food, but forbade her from making lunch for Issei. So he received money to buy something until they could recover from the use of their legs. Rias. Issei was rude to us, she said while noticing a dragon tattoo on his right breast. Akeno. That's true, but I like that it hit me on the ground, she said with a mischievous smile while noticing a tattoo on his back. Asia. Yes, I like that he was kind to me and Middler, she said while noticing a tattoo on his thigh. Zenobia. It hurt me, but then I loved it, she said while noticing a tattoo on her neck. Kuroka. I don't regret doing it with Issei Naya, it was great penetrating Rainer and Kaneko, she said while noticing a tattoo on her right thigh. Kaneko. Issei senpai was a pervert but very nice, she said while noticing a tattoo on his stomach. Leo. Alpha didn't hold back with Office, Tiamat and me. In fact, he forced us to have lesbian acts with each other, she said while noticing a tattoo on her chest. Office. I think that when her mating season comes, she'll get us all pregnant, she said while noticing a tattoo on her cheek. Arena. By the way, what do these marks mean? She said while looking at a tattoo on her left hand. Tiamat. Issei had a little, just a very small amount of hidden dragon power, which caused him to mark all of us. That means that from today onwards we are his property and no man can approach us without Issei's permission, she said while showing a tattoo on her leg. Aika. I don't need them. I felt like Issei was splitting me in two. She said with a perverted smile while she had a tattoo on her stomach near her crotch. That's how they talked about how much they enjoyed having relations with Issei. Issei-san. He was at a ramen stand along with Aki, Himeno, Kabeni, and Power. Issei. Makima hasn't been with us lately, he said as they nodded. Aki. Makima got a promotion, so she won't be with us anymore since she was given a higher position than us, she said while Issei understood. Then a guy arrives and sits at another table next to Issei. Hey you used to work with the Yakuza, right? He said with a serious expression. Issei. Yes, but I killed them because they made a contract with a demon who controlled them. What idiots. He said. Well, the guy didn't show it, but he got angry at Issei's comment. Did you know this man? He said while showing him a picture of Issei's former boss. Issei. Yeah, I killed that idiot first, he said as the guy got even more angry. That man was my grandfather, but it doesn't matter anymore because today you will die. He said as he pulled out a gun and shot Issei in the head. Aki, Himeno, Power and Kabeni get into fighting stances, although Kabeni was clearly scared. Today you will die, he said, pulling his cord and revealing katanas. Thus the place was destroyed and everyone was seen being protected by Himeno's power. Aki. Fox, she said as a large fox head devoured the demon. Fox. You made me eat something that is neither human nor demon, he said as his head was split in two by Katana Man. Katana Man. Pathetic, he said as his arm was crushed by Himeno's power, but Katana Man made a cut that severed his chest. Himeno spat blood and Aki took Kabeni and Himeno to safety. Aki. I will protect them, she said, drawing her sword, and they began a very serious fight. Then a girl arrives and says. Girl. Snake attacks. She said as a large snake tried to eat Aki, but he was saved by Kabeni. Kabeni approaches Issei and pulls his cord. Issei. Damn, that hurt, man. He said as he lunged towards Katana Man, but there was a huge difference in power, and Katana Man cut Issei in half. So they were going to leave, and Himeno thought. Himeno. I won't let them escape, hey give me more power, she said as a voice was heard. Demon. No, if I do it you'll have to give me something in return, said the demon seriously. Himeno. Fine, I'll give you, she said, but didn't finish because whips attacked Katana Man and the girl. Girl. What is this? Snake devouring. She said as a large snake began to devour the whips, but it was in pain. Katana Man. They're whips of flesh, we have to escape, he said as they both tried to escape with Issei's body, but then the power of destruction interrupted their path. Rias. What are you trying to do with my fiancé? She said as she cornered them. Katana Man lunges towards Rias, but two swords clash, revealing Zenobia and Arena with their swords. Zenobia. I will kill you, she said as they both began to clash swords. Arena didn't stay behind and launched her own attack. Girl. How did they get there? The others were supposed to have surrounded this boy's mansion. She said nervously. Isaka. You mean them? If they weren't very clever when they came in and surrounded us. She said while throwing the heads of the guys who ambushed Issei's mansion. Thus Zenovia and Arena cut off Katana Man's arms and surrounded them both. Bakeno. Well, I think you need a punishment for doing that to Issei-kun. She said as she began to electrocute them both, causing them to scream. The girl then launched her snake at them, but they began to attack it until both Sona and Seraphol froze the snake. So they see again where they both were, but they were no longer there. Ingrid. They escaped, she said as she saw that there was no one left. Tsubaki. That doesn't matter, we have to help Issei, she said as they went to get Issei, but saw how Kabeni gave him her blood, causing Issei to regain his legs. Issei loses his transformation and sees that he is surrounded by his girls. Issei. Girls, shit happened to me, he said while looking at his crotch and saw a piece of cardboard and covered his member. Upon seeing Issei's large member, Kabeni suffered a nosebleed and fell unconscious. Hiroka. You can leave it hanging, we don't care, Naya, she said in a perverted way. Asia was healing Himeno's wound, and once healed, she approached Issei. Aki does it too, and they look at Issei. Issei. How did you get here? He said while looking at them. Rias. Well, after leaving us in wheelchairs, Ravel called her family to heal us since Asia's healing wasn't enough. Once we recovered, we were going about our daily lives when suddenly some guys came in armed to the teeth, but they didn't realize we were supernatural beings, so we massacred them. We sensed your presence very faintly, so we arrived as quickly as possible, and here we are. She said while making a magic circle around Issei, causing him to wear pants. Issei. I see, well let's go home. He said as the girls stopped him. Akeno. Issei-kun, we can't go back because they're doing an investigation or something, and we can't return until they finish. She said as Issei understood. Rias. Don't worry Issei, I have a mansion just outside of here, so let's go. She said as Issei nodded and they left. Seraphol. You all go ahead, I have to go get Sirzechs since he called me for an important meeting. She said as they understood and she left through a magic circle. Aki goes to make the report, Power who comes out of hiding goes with him, Murayama and Cadis were carrying an unconscious Kabeni, and Himeno went home to rest after almost losing her life. When Himeno arrived at her building, she saw that the entrance was forbidden because the snake had destroyed a significant part of its structure. Himeno. What do I do now? She said while thinking about asking Aki for a place to stay, but not because the last time she stayed with him she vomited on his carpet and Aki forced him to clean it. Lakima didn't like her either, since she didn't enjoy being with her because, in Himeno's words, she was a bucking bitch. Only Issei remained, and with his power as a ghost demon, he began to follow his essence. But Seraphol. She arrived in the meeting room with Sirzechs and saw that all the leaders were there. Seraphol, why did you gather us here Sirzechs, she said, confused. Sirzechs. Well, look, guards, come in with our guest. He said as many guards entered and saw that they had someone handcuffed. Seraphol and the others opened their eyes in surprise, especially Azazel, since he was responsible for killing her. Everyone. Kateria, they said speechlessly. Kateria. Hello, she said uncomfortably wearing these anti-magic handcuffs. Chapter 14 Lieutenant. Issei was seen sitting in an armchair while Himeno was tied to a chair as Issei's harem watched her seriously. Kaneko. It's her, but she slept with Issei-senpai, she said while she stopped sniffing Himeno. Rias. Can you explain why you slept with our Issei without our permission? She said with a terrifying aura that even the ghost demon was scared of. Himeno. Well, you see, she said while telling them what happened with her and Issei, how they were both drunk and how they ended up like this. Hiroka. That's no excuse to sleep with Issei, you bitch. She said jealously. You might be wondering how we got to this point. Well, Himeno found the new place where Issei and his harem would live, but upon arriving, she was thrown to the ground by Kaneko and Kuroka and tied to a chair by Murayama and Cadis. Himeno. Calm down, Issei and I enjoyed it, she said as the girl's auras increased. Demon of ghosts. Well, I leave my power to the demon of monsters, my PS5 to the demon of emotion, and my blood to the demon of blood. He said as he finished his will, since his time had come because of Himeno, and seeing the great anger the girls had, he decided to end his life, just waiting for his death. Rias. Issei, that's true, she said with a smile that didn't bode well. Issei. Well, he said while trying to remember. He remembered how she rode him like a cowgirl while mooing like a cat in heat. How he held her legs while penetrating her with all his might. How he gave it to her from behind in the doggy position. He recalled all the positions they had taken, and he turned red. Issei. I'll tell you the truth or you'll kill me painlessly, he said nervously, causing everyone to look at Issei with such anger that it scared him so much his heart pounded with fear. Vegeta. "Oh, how scary, I'm leaving," she said while watching the scene. Our watched the scene while eating popcorn and Kobeni watched in fear. Rias and the others tie up Issei and take him away. Rias. "Well, let's leave you drained so you understand that you're only ours," she said while also taking him away since she too would suffer or enjoy Issei's pleasures. 3 days later. Our was seen looking at everyone with a large drop of sweat. Kobeni blushed as she looked at everyone and Himeno was in a wheelchair. Himeno. "Well, I admit it, he's incredible," she said while remembering how they became the rapists, where they all intended to grape Issei, but it only took an hour for the grape to become the graped. Akeno. "I'll never get tired of this, I hope that someday I'll be rewarded," she said while remembering how Issei forced Akeno to kiss Himeno who, lost in pleasure, did so willingly. Rainer. "I'll be the first one rewarded, Akeno," she said while remembering how Issei even gave it to her in the armpits and ears, where she felt the pleasure at its maximum. Rias. "Don't even dream about it. I'll be the first one down," she said as they all started arguing about who would get the prize first. Isaka. "Don't talk nonsense, I'll be the first since Kunu loves her little brother," she said with an arrogant smile. Thus Issei, Kobeni, Himeno and Power escaped from the scene. Power. "Are you sure you're not possessed by the demon of lust?" he said while mocking Issei. Kobeni blushed with embarrassment as she remembered hearing Issei's girls moaning and his own moans. Himeno. "Then I can stay here and live," she said while looking at Issei. Issei. "Well, considering what we did, I think it's fine. Kobeni, can you give her a room?" he said as she nodded. Some time later. Our, Issei and Makima were seen walking in the cemetery. Issei. "Why did we come here?" he said while looking at Makima. Makima. "Well, you'll have training with the best demon hunter we have," she said as they arrived with a blonde guy holding an alcoholic drink. Kishub. "Hello, it's a pleasure. My name is Kishub, the best demon slayer in all of Japan. You will be my toys," he said while drinking. Makima. "Good luck, don't die too often," she said as she left. Kishub. "So you, Issei Hyoudou, are a hybrid and you, Power, are possessed by the blood demon. Well, let her begin her training," he said as he approached them both at great speed and began to choke them. Kishub. "I have a lot of work to do with you," he said as he snapped their necks. Issei. "Damn it," he said, falling dead. Kishub. "You are both immortal, you will not die from physical wounds. Demons like you only need blood to recover," he said as he took out a bag of blood and gave it to both of them. Kishub. "Stand up, this isn't over yet," he said as Issei stood up, as did Power. Issei. "You bucking bastard," he said as he lunged towards him but fell dead with a knife in his head. Power. "Take this," she said while holding a blood hammer, but Kishub cuts her throat where she fell dead. In total, Power died 20 times and Issei 40 times because he wouldn't give up. Kishub. "That's all for today. You'll have another training session tomorrow morning," he said as he went to a bar to drink. Both were unconscious after a long day of training and dying. Issei. "That guy is amazing," he said as he felt someone carry him on their back. Issei recognized that scent and began to touch her breasts. Issei. "Nothing better than touching some nice tits after a long day at work," he said while fondling her breasts. "And you wait to get home, Issei," she said while carrying him, but she felt the urge to have sex with Issei in the cemetery. Issei. "I'm sorry Yasaka, but I need them," he said while snuggling up to Yasaka's back and playing with her large breasts. Yasaka. "You really are a boy with raging hormones," she said as she took Issei home. Power. "And what about me?" she said as she was grabbed by one foot and dragged away by Seraphol. Power. "Hey, can you carry me?" she said as she looked at Seraphol. Seraphol. "I still haven't forgiven you for breaking my hero Succubus cosplay that I had planned as a surprise for Issei," she said while dragging Power away. Issei. "Sera-chan, carry Power, and if you do it on my day off, I'll give you 50 shades of Issei," he said while Seraphol didn't think twice and carried Power away. Power. "I owe you one, Issei," he said while resting on Seraphol's back, who was annoyed, but knowing that she would get a big reward from Issei, she let it go. Thus, both leaders took both possessed individuals away, but they remember the meeting they had. Flash black. The leaders were seen looking at Kateria, who was looking at everyone. Azazel. "I thought I had killed you, Kateria," he said while looking at her. Kateria. "That's right, but thanks to someone very important I returned. Don't worry, I'm not here to be your enemy again," she said as she looked at them. Auden. "Then why have you come?" he said as he looked at her. Kateria. "I am indebted to him. I am forbidden to say who returned to me, even if I am tortured, but I have come to join as a spy for the Grand Alliance." She said this while they were interested in that. Zeus. "I understand now. Well, if you'll allow me, I think it's an excellent idea for Kateria to be a spy." he said while Azazel, Michael and Israel agreed. Searches. You may be a spy for the Grand Alliance, but if you betray us, we will take you to Tartarus to suffer for all eternity, he said as Kateria nodded. So the guards remove the handcuffs and he goes in search of Rizivim to join him. End of memory. Serafal. Thinking, Kateria, don't do anything stupid, she thought as she walked alongside Yasaka. Some time later. Bishop was seen walking towards Issei's mansion. Bishop. This mansion is worth more than my entire life salary, he said as he rang the doorbell. He then dodges some blood spears and other spears on the ceiling where he is, breaking them. Bishop saw Issei come down from the second floor with an axe, where he tried to slash him, but received a kick. Kishub then grabbed a blood spear and threw it towards the door, where Power took the full force of the spear to the head. Luckily for Kishub, the girls went shopping, leaving Issei and Power alone, otherwise Kishub would be torn to pieces right now. Bishop. Well, first I'll tell you your mistakes. Power, you used too much blood and that's what made you slow. Issei, your movements are slow. Well, you didn't do too badly, he said as he left. Issei stood up but fell dead with a knife in his head. Bishop. A word of advice, never trust what the hunter says, he said as Issei fell dead. The girls were seen arriving at the mansion where they witnessed Issei having a very evenly matched fight with Kishub. Bishop. Your movements are slow, you need to be faster, stronger, he said as Issei held his axe and tried to strike him, but Kishub kicked him in the chin, leaving him on the ground with a broken jaw. Bishop. You're improving very quickly, you're faster than Power, he said as he left, but dodged an attack from Issei where Kishub kicked him in the face, knocking him unconscious. Bishop looked down, seeing that Issei had managed to cut his suit. Bishop. Impressive, he said as he left, but was speechless upon seeing a large number of women with bodies he would kill to have in his bed. Bishop. Hello, my name is, he said while trying to be flirtatious, but they all quickly went towards Issei. Rias. Issei, are you alright? She said as she rested him on her lap. Bekeno. Hang in there, Issei, she said as Asia began to heal him. Himeno. It's been a while, Kishub. She said while he remained silent. Bishop. I thought what Makima said was a lie, but she actually does have a harem, he said as Himeno laughed while smoking. Himeno. If they all love him, look how he left me, she said while Kishub saw that she was in a wheelchair. Bishop. Wow, quite the fornicator, he said while looking at him with a mixture of pride and respect. Himeno had to stop the girls who wanted to kill Kishub for doing that to Issei, but in the end they understood that it was training. Some time later. Issei and Power looked ready for the second round against Katana Man and the possessed snake girl. Kabeni. I'm scared, she said as Issei hugged her where she led him. After making peace with all the girls, seeing that Kabeni was truly sorry for what she had done, he earned her forgiveness, since Issei would have done the same and did. This gave her more freedom and allowed her to receive hugs from Issei, without feeling the girl's death glares. She even considered adding her to Issei's harem if she wanted. Himeno. Don't worry, we'll finish this soon and you can go to university, she said, and she was right. Issei had spoken with Rias to find out if there was a possibility that she could give Kabeni a large sum of money for her parents, so that she could go to university. Rias accepted without hesitation, since for Issei anything was possible. It only took one phone call for Searches to send a hefty sum of money to Kabeni's parents. Kabeni only had to complete this mission to retire and be able to go to university. Himeno. Don't worry, this will be over soon, she said while she was ready, as was Aki. Mr. Chainsaw, I brought you the drink you ordered, she said as a woman in a swimsuit with a shark's head on her face emerged from the ground. The shark's head disappeared, revealing a dark-haired girl with a smile. Issei. Thank you, Beam-chan, he said while blushing at the sight of Issei. They'll say who's the good one, let's spend a day before. Flash black. Lakima was seen looking at Issei, who was blushing because he had a beautiful girl in his crotch. In his human form Beam. Lakima. I present to you Beam, the shark demon and #1 fan of the chainsaw demon, she said while Issei felt Beam's large butt. Beam. It's a pleasure, Mr. Chainsaw. My name is Beam, and from today on, I will be your personal slave. I will do anything you ask without hesitation, she said while wiggling her rear end, causing Issei to get an erection. Beam. I can take care of that, she said as she knelt down and began to pull out her member, but Issei stopped her. Issei. Wait, that's not necessary, he said, blushing as he saw that she was willing to do anything for Issei. Issei. Can you bring me a lemon soda and some ramen? He said while looking at her. Beam. Right away, Mr. Chainsaw, he said as he jumped to the ground where the ground turned into water for a moment and disappeared. Issei. That girl then is, he said as Makima nodded. Makima. She can't stay in the public security building, so from today onwards, by order of Israel Sama, she will live with Taigo from today onwards, she said while Issei had to explain to the girls that Beam would be living in the Hyoudou mansion from that moment on. End of memory. Issei drinks his soda while stroking Beam's head, who lets him stroke it. Beam? Tell me what else I can do, Mr. Chainsaw. He said while waiting for a new order. Issei. You can call me Issei Beam-chan, and I want you to take care of Kobeni and Himeno and help them stop the snake-possessed woman. He said while she gave a military salute. Beam? Yes sir, he said as he left. Issei. It's time, he said as they entered the building in search of revenge. Chapter 15 Katana Man vs Chainsaw Man. Power and Issei were seen in the elevator going up while below Aki, Himeno, Bream and Kobeni were fighting against the army of zombies. Issei and Power were going up and when they reached a floor they saw that the place was full of zombies. Power. I'll take care of following me, Israel, he said as he lunged towards the zombie army. Issei just left Power there while they went up and when they reached the top floor there was Katana Man without weapons. Issei. This is your end, he said while holding his cord. Katana Man. Calm down, we don't want to fight, we just want this to end. Don't you have any humanity when you kill? Or didn't you care about killing my grandpa? He said while looking at him. Issei. Your grandfather was an idiot who made a contract with a demon who tricked them, you know. Everyone I killed that day became zombies because of his selfishness. He said while Katana Man watched him. Katana Man. If you have any humanity left, let us kill you without a fight. Avoid unnecessary deaths. He said while Issei watched. Issei. No way, I have girls waiting for me at home and I can't die yet, he said as he lunged towards Katana Man. Thus the top floor was destroyed while Issei was seen in his chainsaw form and Katana Man with his katanas. Thus they both start a fight where they both end up on top of a train. Issei. What's wrong, are you slow? He said while delivering a sweeping kick that knocks him down, but he dodges a chainsaw. Katana Man. Damn it. He said as he broke through the roof where people were screaming in terror. Katana Man begins attacking Issei, who protects the people who were there. Issei. You damn thing, you claim to have humanity when you don't, he said as Katana Man attacked. Katana Man. I don't care, she said while cutting off Issei's arm, who was protecting a mother and her daughter. Issei. Run away. He said as the train stopped and people jumped out of the train in terror. Issei. Is that all you've got? He said while dodging a slash from Katana Man. So they both fought again, but Issei, lacking an arm, had difficulty fighting. Issei. Bastard, he said while breaking one of Katana Man's katanas from his left arm, but Katana Man cuts off his other chainsaw, leaving Issei without arms. Katana Man. My grandpa never told you when to surrender. Apologize to him and I'll give you a quick death. He said while looking at him. Issei. I still have the chainsaw on my head. He said as he ran towards Katana Man. Katana Man. Imbecile, he said as he ran towards Issei. Katana Man. Pathetic, you're simply pathetic, he said as he watched the chainsaw on Issei's head split in two. Issei. Thanks for going for my head, you bucking idiot. He said as Katana Man opened his mouth and was split in half vertically. Issei. Never believe what the hunter says, he said while holding a chainsaw to his right leg. Katana Man fell to the ground, split in two, while Issei only saw his body. Some time later. Issei was seen with his torso exposed but wearing his pants while watching Katana Man in his human form tied up. Then he sees Akeno arrive with a shopping bag. Akeno. Issei, she said as she approached him and kissed him. Issei. Hello Akeno, what are you doing here? He said while looking at her. Akeno. I went shopping and then I saw you here, who is he? She said while looking at the guy. Issei. He's the one who cut me in two and almost killed Himeno, he said while she looked at him seriously. Issei and Akeno were silent until Issei had a lightbulb moment. Issei. I know, we have about 15 minutes before the police take him away. I don't think it's fair that he's in jail for life without paying for everything he did. He said while Akeno watched him. Akeno. What do you propose? She said while looking at him. Issei. My dear Queen of Lightning, I invite you to participate in this fun game. We have to kick this guy in the balls and whoever makes him scream the most wins. He said while Katana Man looked seriously at Issei. Katana Man. You're a psychopath, she said while looking at him. Issei. He said while mocking Katana Man. Akeno. What will you give me if I win? She said while looking at him. Issei. Whatever you want, he said, already having an idea of what she wanted. Akeno. Let's do it, she said as she slowly approached Katana Man, as did Issei. Katana Man. Wait, no, he said while only Akeno and Issei's kicks and Katana Man's screams could be heard. Elsewhere, Aki and Himeno were seen giving their report while Beam and Kibeni were seen taking away the possessed snake demon who had suffered severe bites from Beam, who bit her all over her body. At that moment, the woman possessed by the snake demon fell to the ground dead, headless. Kibeni screamed in terror and Beam simply took the snake demon's body and devoured it without hesitation. Kibeni only vomited while Beam only ate the woman's body. Elsewhere, Akeno was seen kicking Katana Man in the groin as he screamed in pain while receiving another kick from Issei. In the end, Akeno won, making him scream until his vocal cords ruptured. The police had to drag him away while some foam came out of Katana Man's mouth. Some time later, Issei was seen talking to the girls while Beam ate. "Beam. Whoever wanted me to make this curry, it's really good," he said while eating. Akeno. "Thank you," she said while looking at Beam. Issei. "Well, this is Beam, and Makima told me she couldn't stay at the public safety building, so she can stay with us," he said as they looked at Beam, and Ingrid felt she had a rival. Beam. "Nice to meet you, my name is Beam and I am Issei-sama's slave," she said as everyone looked at Beam. Rias. "Tell me, do you intend to win Issei over?" she said, while Issei didn't hesitate for a second and nodded. They all give Beam a serious look and take her to a room for questioning. Issei just watches them as he decides to eat with power, Kibeni and Himeno until the girls finish interrogating Beam. 20 minutes later. They could all be seen leaving while Beam jumped for joy. Rias. "Fine, she can stay. Kibeni, give her a room," she said as Kibeni nodded. Some time later. The girls had agreed to let Beam stay while she made merchandise that she sold, the chainsaw, where she gained a lot of fame for the battles she had. The girls also had figurines, poles, and some chainsaw shirts as examples. Rias had several Issei shirts, as well as figurines and a chainsaw Odyssey. Akeno had chainsaw underwear as well as some chainsaw adult toys. Asia had chainsaw poles in her room, as well as a chainsaw shirt. Kaneko had several chainsaw figurines, and unbeknownst to anyone, she also had an adult chainsaw toy. These are some examples of the merchandise that Issei's girls had. Both children and adults admired Issei because they considered him a hero. The girls who tried to win him over were unsuccessful, as he would just pull out a piece of paper. Issei. "Forget about me, I'm married," he said while reading the paper. Hey, that guy stole some of my merchandise, do something," he said while looking at Issei. Issei. "I can't, I'm married," he said as the guy just left to look for a weapon to chase the thief. Issei decides to help the man, so Issei beat up the thief and returned the man's belongings. As a thank you, the man gave him some chips and soda, which he enjoyed with power. Thus, Issei's life was luxurious. He had already fulfilled his dreams, he ate exquisite food, he had women whom he could enjoy every night, he had friends, he had a maid, slave, what more could he ask for? Now Issei was giving Akeno her prize for beating him by kicking Katana Man in the balls. Akeno. "Put it in deeper, Issei." Akeno screams with pleasure as Issei thrusts into her anus. Issei. "My life is the best," he said, giving Akeno a hard slap on the butt, who screamed with pleasure, and a huge mark was visible on her rear end. Akeno had Issei all night, where she and he enjoyed Hex to the fullest. Later, Seraphil also enjoyed Issei all night to herself, where in the end Seraphil fell unconscious, but Issei continued thrusting into her. Issei had to endure the pouting of the others, so he had to organize his schedule, where in the end they all enjoyed a moment alone with Issei, until it came to the realization that Issei would be more responsible. Isaka was seen vomiting, while Kunu and Issei tried to calm her down. Issei. "Maybe the fried tofu last night didn't agree with you," he said while looking at Isaka. Isaka. "Maybe so," she said, but she had a theory. Isaka went to Aztec territory to clear up his doubts. Isaka. "So Israel-san, what do I have?" she said while looking at Israel. Israel. "You're pregnant, congratulations," he said as Isaka covered her mouth while tears of happiness fell from her eyes. Isaka. Thinking, "I have Issei's child," she thought while touching her belly. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.